crossing into a heroic era of wealth and technology. With no female protagonist, a researcher from the Chinese Academy of Sciences finds himself transported to the underbelly of Hong Kong. Armed with a space-time research facility from 2025, where time flows at a rate of 10:1. Thus begins the rise of black technology. Military advancements, gas canister cannons, electromagnetic railguns, and space-based kinetic strikes. Financial advancements, counterfeit engines, best-selling electronic products, and leading enterprises in computers and mobile phones. Power upgrades, a modest smuggling fleet. The world's largest security conglomerate, and control over the underground order of global shipping. Years later, my father becomes the revered underground emperor of Hong Kong. While I continuously supply my country with epic-defining black technology, emerging as a technological titan that the world gazes upon in awe. I, Lin Chao, am both the uncrowned king of Hong Kong and an unparalleled patriot on the path to national resurgence. Chapter 1. The treatment of this time travel ticket is unsatisfactory. The briny sea breeze filled his throat, making it difficult to open his eyes. Lin Chao crouched against the swaying ship's railing, gripping the cold metal tightly, as the engine of the fishing boat roared beside him. His stomach churned violently, not merely from seasickness, but from the relentless pursuit of a white speedboat trailing closely behind. The vessel outpaced their dilapidated fishing boat, and a machine gun mounted at its bow aimed ominously in their direction. "Chao, get down!" Lin Jiqiang's hoarse shout erupted in Lin Chao's ears, prompting him to instinctively lower his body further. In the next moment, the sharp crack of gunfire pierced through the sound of the waves, bullets ricocheting off the boat's stern, splintering wood in a flurry. A few stray bullets clanged against the metal canopy, sending sparks flying. Lin Chao's heart raced, nearly leaping from his throat. 5 minutes prior, he was not the boy who grew up in the fishing village of Hong Kong. His soul belonged to a time 50 years hence, that of Lin Chao, one of the youngest researchers at the Automation Institute of the Dragon Kingdom Academy of Sciences. Yet, the remnants of the original soul still influenced him, instilling a natural affinity for his father, Lin Jiqiang. Lin Chao was accustomed to precision instruments and intricate codes, not to the harrowing reality of a gunfight. "Who are they? The water police wouldn't be this ruthless," he called out, raising his voice toward the hulking figure in the cockpit. Lin Jiqiang, one hand on the wheel and the other drawing a black pistol from his waist, shouted without turning, "Shut up and hold on." He abruptly spun the wheel, sending the fishing boat careening in a wild arc across the waves, trying to evade the speedboat's direct assault. The vessel tilted sharply, and a cacophony of thuds and gasps erupted from the cabin. Peering over his father's shoulder, Lin Chao spotted 2 passengers in the cabin, a middle-aged man and woman dressed in ordinary clothing. These were the clients his father had taken on this trip to return to Pengcheng. At that moment, the man shielded the woman. Though their faces were pale, their eyes lacked the typical terror of ordinary people, instead reflecting an unsettling calm. A chill ran down Lin Chao's spine. Something was amiss. His father, Lin Jiqiang, had withdrawn from the Guangdong maritime gang, yet he still engaged in perilous undertakings. Smuggling, illegal immigration, none of it was above board. Yet, even amidst gang conflicts or police chases, he had never encountered gunfire like this. The firepower aimed to turn their entire boat into a sieve. "Boss Lin, my apologies," the man in the cabin suddenly spoke, his voice low yet remarkably clear. "This job has embroiled you in our troubles." Lin Jiqiang spat out a mouthful of blood, cursing. "What good is saying that now? Who are you, and which deity have you offended?" The man revealed without hesitation, "We are from the mainland, carrying certain items on this trip back." He paused, glancing at the increasingly close speedboat. "We are being pursued by foreign agents. They have commandeered a water police vessel." The mention of foreign agents sent a tremor through Lin Chao. He instantly comprehended the gravity of their situation. This was not a gang rivalry or a typical smuggling operation gone awry. It was a covert intelligence war. He and his father, mere smugglers, had unwittingly become entangled in a battle between 2 major national intelligence agencies. No wonder they were willing to resort to lethal force. To those agents, the 2 of them were expendable pawns. Lin Jiqiang's face darkened, his weathered features reflecting a storm of rage. He fired a shot into the sea, venting his frustrations, though the sound of his pistol seemed laughably weak against the roar of the machine guns. The speedboat closed in further, the gunner at the bow now visible, wearing a cruel grin reminiscent of a cat toying with a mouse. The next wave of gunfire erupted, bullets raining down like torrential rain. riddling their meager cover with countless holes. A bullet grazed Lin Chau's arm, drawing blood. He staggered, his grip on the wheel faltering. The fishing boat swerved dangerously close to the crest of a wave. "Father!" Lin Chao cried in despair. "I'm fine," Lin Chao grunted, pressing down hard on his wounded arm and reclaiming the wheel, the veins on his forehead bulging from pain and exertion. "Chao, listen. I'll steer the boat toward the rocky area over there. You jump into the sea when the chaos ensues. Swim to shore and don't look back." Jump into the sea? Lin Chao glanced at the ominous rocks in the distance and then back at the speedboat's menacing gun. Jumping overboard under the barrage of gunfire was akin to presenting himself as a target. It was a guaranteed death sentence. No, absolutely not. He could not perish here. In a moment of desperation, he silently called out, "System? System, please help me." He had often read that time travelers possessed golden thumbs to assist them. Yet, regardless of how fervently he pleaded, there seemed to be no response. A sense of despair washed over him. It appeared that his time travel ticket came with inadequate benefits. Amidst the chaos of his thoughts, an image from a time not belonging to this era flashed in his mind. It was the Automation Institute, his laboratory. He instinctively sensed that the automation research facility had traversed alongside his soul into this realm, an independent space beyond this world. He could seek refuge within. As the thought crystallized, it became impossible to suppress. Lin Chao's mind raced, calculating every possibility. Only he could enter. What about his father? What would happen if he vanished into thin air? He couldn't let his father see that. He needed a plausible excuse. An opportunity to momentarily remove himself from their line of sight. "Father, I'm going to the lower cabin. The wood there is thick and it's safer." Lin Chao shouted with all his might, straining his voice. "Don't go, it's dangerous." Lin Chao immediately retorted, refusing without a second thought. The lower cabin was the fishing boat's lowest level, dark and filthy, with only a narrow entrance. If the boat sank, there would be no chance of escape. Gunfire erupted once more, bullets shattering the cockpit glass. Lin Chao ducked sharply, shards of glass raining down upon him. Now was the moment. Lin Chao no longer hesitated. He scrambled toward the entrance of the lower cabin, moving like a startled lizard. The opening was small enough for just one person to pass through. "Chao, come back." Lin Chau's frantic shout was drowned out by gunfire and crashing waves. Lin Chao flung open the filthy wooden hatch, and a powerful stench of fish and oil assaulted him, nearly suffocating him. Without pausing for breath, he plunged inside. His body tumbled through the narrow passage and crashed onto the sticky floor of the lower cabin. Above him, bullets penetrated the deck, splashing into the water. The boat rocked violently, seeming on the verge of disintegration. Lin Chao could hear his father's desperate roars, the suppressed breaths of the two agents, and the ever-approaching footsteps of death. He curled up in a dark corner, closed his eyes, and silently chanted, "Enter." In an instant, the deafening gunfire ceased. The tumultuous sensations of upheaval faded away, and the nauseating stench of fish vanished. The world transformed into a realm of brightness. When Lin Chao opened his eyes once more, he found himself standing in a place of profound familiarity. Beneath his feet lay a gleaming marble floor, so pristine that it reflected his silhouette. Above him soared a magnificent dome, soaring over 10 meters high, adorned with a crest that shimmered with a silvery metallic luster. Surrounding him were cold glass walls and metallic columns, lending a solemn and dignified air to the entire space. The atmosphere was suffused with the refreshing currents of the central air conditioning system. Lin Chao stared blankly at the familiar gilded characters emblazoned on the wall ahead. Dragon Country Academy of Sciences, Institute of Automation. Chapter 2. This shot comes from 50 years hence. This was the main hall of the Institute of Automation. He had returned, or rather, he had brought it back. The institute remained unchanged, featuring a spacious courtyard, a main research building, a laboratory building, and a logistics building that housed the cafeteria, dormitories, and activity rooms. The entire campus was enclosed by towering walls, utterly isolating it from the outside world. Water, electricity, and the internet functioned normally, as if he had merely left work yesterday. Lin Chao approached the electronic calendar in the hall, which clearly displayed October 8th, 2025. Time here seemed to stand still. No, wait. He abruptly raised his wrist, finding it empty. Yet he distinctly remembered glancing at the clock in the cockpit before entering this space. His mind raced, and an indescribable suspicion surged within him. He dashed into his office, where the second hand of the quartz clock on the wall moved steadily. A remarkable realization dawned upon him. Time flowed here at 10 times the rate of the outside world. For every minute that passed outside, he experienced 10 minutes here. Marvelous. Yet this elation was extinguished within mere seconds by the chilling reality. Lin Chao was still outside. Time was of the essence. Even with tenfold time. Every second outside was a matter of life and death. He had to find a weapon. Lin Chao sprinted through the silent institute. The first place he burst into was the precision machining laboratory. Lathes, milling machines, 3D printers, various expensive equipment stood quietly. These tools could fabricate the most precise components in the world, yet none could produce a bullet ready for immediate firing. Useless. Next, he rushed into the materials analysis lab. Spectrometers, electron microscopes, tensile testing machines, still useless. The robotics lab. Several multi-jointed robotic arms hung suspended in midair, frozen in their last position before the power outage. Lin Chao even spotted the small, unmanned inspection vehicle he had designed himself, quietly resting at its charging station. But these devices were complex in programming, slow to initiate, and lacked any offensive modules. By the time he modified them into weapons, his father would likely be reduced to nothing but a pile of bones. No, still nothing. He dashed into one lab after another, only to emerge in despair. This was a temple of science, not a military factory. Lin Chao halted, his chest heaving. Gasping for air, sweat dripped from his brow, splattering onto the polished floor. Was he to remain here, helplessly listening to his father's life ebb away outside? No, absolutely not. Lin Chao's eyes were bloodshot as he forced himself to regain composure. He could not solely rely on ready-made weapons. He had to construct one using the materials at hand. But what to create? A gun? He lacked the expertise and time. Explosives? The lab had some chemicals. But the ratios and detonation mechanisms posed significant challenges. A slight miscalculation could either result in a dud or a premature explosion. What else was there? High power, long range, and simple structure. He thought rapidly. In university, Lin Chao had not only excelled in mechanical engineering, but was also an incorrigible military enthusiast. In preparation for a post about asymmetric warfare, he had scoured every resource on improvised weaponry. At the time, it had seemed merely intriguing. Now, that knowledge was his only lifeline. He recalled how militants in the Middle Eastern battlefields crafted formidable homemade weapons using the simplest tools. Gas canisters? A gas canister cannon. Lin Chao's pupils constricted sharply, as if ignited by a spark. The logistics building, the cafeteria. He turned and, summoning every ounce of strength, dashed out of the laboratory. Across the open courtyard, heading straight for the cafeteria on the first floor of the logistics building. With a resounding bang, he kicked open the heavy stainless steel door of the kitchen. A familiar medley of cooking aromas mingled with the scent of oil wafted towards him. His gaze swiftly scanned the kitchen, finally landing on a corner by the back door. There, neatly stacked, were 5 deep red gas canisters the size of jars. Found it. This was it. Without a moment's hesitation, he grabbed 3 and placed them onto a nearby cart, swiftly turning and racing back to the machining workshop. Upon returning to the workshop, he set the gas canisters down on the floor. It was time to transform the theoretical knowledge in his mind into lethal weaponry. The first step was the cannon barrel. Lin Chao rummaged through the materials and quickly found a seamless steel pipe. Its walls exceeding 1 centimeter in thickness and slightly larger in diameter than the gas canister, practically custom-made. He powered on the plasma cutter, and a blinding arc ignited, sending sparks flying. With a swift motion, he precisely cut a 1-meter-long section from the pipe. Next, he retrieved a thick steel plate, welding the pipe to the plate to create a base. On his first attempt, in his haste, he set the current too high, burning a hole directly through the plate. Lin Chao muttered an expletive and replaced it with another piece of steel to start anew. On his second try, he operated cautiously, quickly achieving a secure weld, forming a stable base. To adjust the angle, he also welded on 2 simple supports. In less than 10 minutes, a rudimentary cannon barrel was complete. The second step was the shell. This was crucial. Lin Chao could not simply insert the gas canister. It required modification. He carefully opened the valve, using a long tube to vent the residual liquefied gas outside. Then, he disassembled the entire valve, repeatedly filling the empty canister with water and draining it 3 times, until only the faint scent of water vapor remained. Now, it was merely a thick-walled steel vessel. He then used an angle grinder to cut an opening at the bottom of the gas canister. He rushed to the chemistry lab. retrieving several chemicals from the reagent cabinet to begin synthesizing explosives in a reaction vessel. His hands trembled slightly as he mixed the explosives, a bead of sweat trickling down from his forehead, nearly falling into the powder. Lin Chao's pupils dilated, his heart racing. He knew that any slight deviation in proportions or the introduction of impurities could turn this material into either a pile of useless junk or a bomb that would send him to his doom. He poured the final mixture of gunpowder through the opening he had created. Not enough, it lacked sufficient power. He then gathered a multitude of iron nails, screws, and even smashed a few ball bearings to extract the steel balls, cramming them into the gas canister. Lin Chao sealed the opening with epoxy resin and steel plate. Thus, this gas canister was no longer an ordinary fuel tank, but a heavy bomb filled with potent explosives and countless deadly shrapnel. He replicated the process, crafting 3 such deadly metal canisters in a remarkably short time. The third step was the propellant. He divided the remaining explosives into 3 packages and located several discarded magnesium strips in the laboratory to serve as fuses. Everything was ready. Lin Chao gazed at his creation, a crude homemade cannon and 3 rather comical-looking red shells. They were so simplistic, so grotesque. Yet they harbored the terrifying power capable of obliterating that speedboat. Lin Chao estimated the time, from his entry to the completion of the manufacturing process. Less than an hour had elapsed within the research institute. Converted to the outside world, that equated to a mere 5 minutes. Sufficient. He dragged the cannon's body while cradling 3 shells in his arms. Closing his eyes, he thought out. The sounds of gunfire from outside once again flooded his ears, the pungent odor of fish and diesel enveloping him once more. He had returned. "Chao, you reckless fool. Do you dare to come out?" Lin Jiqiang's voice boomed above him, a mixture of astonishment and fury. Lin Chao paid no heed to his father's anger. Utilizing both hands and feet, he hoisted the heavy cannon and shells from the cramped hatch. The deck was a scene of chaos, riddled with bullet holes and splintered wood. When Lin Jiqiang beheld the bizarre iron contraption Lin Chao had dragged out, he was momentarily rendered speechless. What on earth is this? The white speedboat was now within 50 meters, the gunner's mocking grin almost palpable. A new wave of gunfire could erupt at any moment. Lin Chao firmly braced the cannon's base against the ship's railing, his eyes burning red, his voice hoarse yet imbued with an undeniable calm. "Dad, no questions. Just steady the boat and let them draw closer." Chapter 3. Escape. Lin Jiqiang's mind was a blank slate. Having lived for over half a lifetime, traversed the world, fought with knives, and risked his life against the police, he considered himself a seasoned veteran of all sorts of scenes. Yet, he never anticipated that his academically inclined son would emerge from the ship's hold with such a contraption. A thick iron pipe welded onto a metal plate, dark and undeniably unsightly. What could this possibly do? It felt heavier than a fire poker. "Dad." Lin Chao's voice pulled him from his astonishment. There was a calmness in that voice that seemed beyond his years. Lin Jiqiang instinctively clenched his jaw, gripping the helm tightly. The fishing boat's engine wailed as he exerted every ounce of strength to steady the vessel against the surging waves. The gunner on the opposing speedboat had also noticed Lin Chao's actions. He paused momentarily, then broke into an even more contemptuous smile, lowering the grip of his machine gun to gesture to his companions. Lin Chao could not hear their words, but he could surmise their meaning. Garbage, a desperate struggle. His gaze was as cold as the depths of the ocean. Kneeling, one hand steadying the cannon, he retrieved a lighter from his pocket. The 2 passengers also poked their heads from the cabin. Upon seeing the crude cannon before Lin Chao, the practiced calm on their faces shattered. The man's mouth fell slightly open, as if words were on the tip of his tongue, yet none emerged. The woman beside him stared at Lin Chao's back, her eyes a mixture of confusion. "Closer," Lin Chao silently urged himself. His mind operated like a finely tuned machine, calculating wind speed, wave height, and the relative velocity of the 2 vessels. 40 meters. Now, without a shred of hesitation, he ignited the magnesium strip protruding from the cannon's barrel with the lighter. A blinding white light erupted, akin to a lightning bolt slicing through the night. The magnesium burned rapidly, the flames instantly burrowing deep into the cannon's depths. Lin Jiqiang's heart lurched. The gunner's smile froze on his face as he seemed to grasp what was about to unfold, lunging for his machine gun. Too late. Boom. A deafening roar eclipsed the engine's growl, sending tremors rippling across the sea. A tremendous recoil slammed through the cannon, violently tilting the entire fishing boat as though a colossal unseen hand had shoved it. A woman's scream and the sound of heavy objects crashing filled the cabin. Lin Chao was thrown to the ground by the force, his ears ringing, momentarily deprived of sound. Yet, he kept his eyes wide open, fixated on the front. A crimson gas canister, trailing an ominous flame, arced through the air in a chaotic trajectory, hurtling toward the white speedboat. The expressions of the agents aboard the speedboat were forever frozen in that instant, transitioning from mockery to shock, then to sheer terror. The gas canister struck the center of the speedboat with pinpoint accuracy. There was no earth-shattering explosion, only a fleeting moment of silence, as if time itself had been paused. The next second, kaboom! A massive fireball erupted from within the speedboat. This was no mere flame. It was a tempest of death intermingled with countless steel balls, iron nails, and fragments of screws. The white hull, as fragile as paper, was violently torn apart by this ferocious force. Twisted metal shards soared into the sky alongside the flames, only to rain back down into the sea amidst a cacophony of sound. The gunner, who had been laughing just moments ago, along with his heavy machine gun, disintegrated into a cloud of blood and debris at the moment of the explosion. The front half of the speedboat was lifted high, rolling through the air before crashing heavily onto the water's surface, sending towering waves surging. The rear half sank directly into the depths. The surface of the sea was left strewn with burning oil and wreckage. A few fortunate agents who had not been obliterated in the blast struggled in the water. Engulfed in flames, their cries soon extinguished. The world fell silent. A deathly stillness enveloped everything. Lin Chao lay sprawled on the deck, gasping for breath. His chest ablaze with pain. He felt as though his very organs had been displaced. Struggling to rise, each breath brought a searing sensation of smoke and diesel, mingled with a nauseating stench of burnt blood. He wiped his face, unsure whether it was seawater or cold sweat. Yet his gaze remained icy as it scrutinized the inferno ahead. Not a trace of compassion flickered within him. These individuals wished for the demise of him and his father. Thus, they must meet their end. Dad. Lin Chao's voice was hoarse. In the cockpit, Lin Jiqiang remained in a rigid posture at the helm, resembling a petrified statue. His eyes were wide, akin to copper bells, his mouth agape as if an egg could fit within. Lin Jiqiang stared at the distant inferno, then slowly turned to look at his son. The boy's face was smeared with soot, his expression devoid of relief from survival. Nor did it bear the terror of having taken a life. He was as calm as if he had merely ignited the gas stove in the kitchen moments ago. A chill crept up Lin Jiqiang's spine, as if he were seeing his son, whom he had raised for over a decade, for the first time. Steer the boat. Lin Chao urged once more, then slumped down as if drained of all strength. Lin Jiqiang jolted to life, finally snapping back to reality. He glanced at the burning sea, then at the grotesque iron pipe still emanating smoke on the deck, shivering violently. Without uttering a word, he slammed the throttle down. The fishing boat's engine let out a strained roar, pivoting the vessel's bow toward the coastline of Pengcheng, racing forward at full speed. The pair of passengers emerged from the cabin, casting glances at the terrifying weapon on the deck, then at Lin Chao, whose complexion was pale, yet eyes serene. Their lips moved, yet they could not find the words to speak. The man silently approached Lin Chao, draping his coat over the boy's shoulders. Silence reigned aboard the vessel, save for the roar of the engine and the waves crashing against the hull. The atmosphere was oppressive to the extreme. Lin Jiqiang did not glance back, his gaze fixed firmly ahead. As dawn broke on the horizon, the distant coastline finally came into view. It was not the familiar silhouette of Hong Kong, but rather the unremarkable shoreline of the mainland, a nondescript fishing port. The fishing boat gradually approached the dock. Lin Jiqiang had anticipated a quiet drop-off, then a swift departure to collect payment. However, today as seen at the dock weighed heavily on his heart. The entire port was cordoned off. A dozen soldiers clad in green uniforms, armed and expressionless, stood guard at various points along the dock. Several glaring searchlights illuminated the entire dock as brightly as day. At the end of the pier, 2 military green jeeps were parked. Once the fishing boat had stabilized, a young officer, bearing the insignia of a lieutenant, approached with an air of authority. He first saluted the man and woman aboard the vessel with a crisp military salute, reporting in a resonant voice, "Sir, we have been dispatched to escort you." The man nodded, regaining his composure. He exchanged a few words with the officer, who then turned his sharp gaze towards Lin Jiqiang and his son, Lin Chao, assessing them intently. "Gentlemen," the officer said as he approached, his tone polite yet firm. "We are aware of the situation and appreciate your assistance. However, it is currently inconvenient for you to leave, as the British may still be conducting searches. This gentleman requires some medical attention as well. You will need to stay with us for the next 2 days." Lin Chao felt a wave of unease wash over him. Trouble was clearly brewing. The father and son were led off the boat, while the distinguished couple was escorted into one of the jeeps and quickly vanished from sight. Another middle-aged officer guided Lin Chao and Lin Chao into a different vehicle. They drove along a bumpy dirt road for several minutes before finally stopping in front of a 2-story building that resembled a guest house. The middle-aged officer summoned a nurse, who provided Lin Chao with basic first aid, and then took them upstairs. "You may rest here for the time being," he said, opening the door to a modest room furnished with 2 single beds, a table, and 2 chairs, nothing more. "We will ensure your safety, so please do not leave this premises. If you need anything, you can inform the guard at the door." With that, he turned and exited. The door clicked shut, leaving only Lin Chao and Lin Chao in the room. Silently, Lin Chao moved to the bedside, retrieving a pack of slightly damp cigarettes from his pocket. But he struggled to ignite one. Frustrated, he tossed the cigarette and lighter onto the table. The room fell into a heavy silence, punctuated only by his labored breathing. He lifted his gaze, his bloodshot eyes locking onto Lin Chao. "Chaozi," he rasped. "Tell me honestly, what was that thing on the boat?" Chapter 4. Presenting the blueprint. Lin Chao met his father's gaze without flinching. He faced that intense scrutiny and calmly began to speak. "Dad, have you forgotten what I studied at Xi'an University?" Lin Chao was taken aback. The mechanical engineering department. This had always been his pride. A son raised from a life of hardship to become an accomplished student at a prestigious university. But what did that have to do with the iron contraption capable of blowing a speedboat sky high? Did the textbooks teach you how to make such a device? Lin Chao's tone was laced with incredulity. "Not entirely," Lin Chao replied, shaking his head. "The textbooks cover theory, fluid mechanics, material science, thermodynamics, introductory explosive engineering." With each term Lin Chao uttered, Lin Chao's confusion deepened. He recognized the words, yet their assembly made no sense to him. "I merely applied those theories in practice." Lin Chao continued with a calm demeanor. "It was a project I had been working on at school, titled Research on High-Pressure Vessel Propulsion and Secondary Explosion Effects. I never anticipated it would be utilized in such circumstances." "High-pressure vessel? Secondary explosion?" Lin Chao's head throbbed. He abruptly interrupted his son. "Don't speak to me in terms I can't comprehend." He stood up suddenly, pacing the cramped room. "An experiment? You think an experiment could obliterate those foreigners' boat? Could reduce a person to mere pulp? That thing is a weapon. A cannon." Lin Chao halted abruptly, turning to fix Lin Chao with a fierce gaze, his eyes bloodshot. "Chaozi, tell me the truth. Have you gotten involved with someone? Joined some sort of organization?" This was the possibility he dreaded most. Having clawed his way out of the mire, he wished to spare his son from following the same path. He had believed Lin Chao to be a studious boy, but the events of yesterday had shattered that perception. The calmness in the face of death. The means to create lethal weapons were not traits of an ordinary student. Observing the complex emotions of worry and fear swirling in his father's eyes, Lin Chao felt a twinge of empathy. He understood that this explanation would be difficult to accept, but it was all he could offer. "Dad, I haven't. I only know they intend to kill us. I had to do something. This was merely part of my school experiment. I had intended to refine it during the break. But given the circumstances, I had to use it for self-defense." Lin Chao fell silent. The truth mattered little, for after all, this was his son. He studied the young man before him, suddenly feeling an unprecedented sense of estrangement. "Knock, knock, knock." At that moment, a knock echoed at the door. Lin Chao instinctively glanced towards the entrance. The door swung open, revealing the same middle-aged officer, flanked by 2 armed soldiers. The officer did not enter but remained at the threshold, his gaze sweeping over the father and son before finally settling on Lin Chao. "Comrade Lin Chao," he began, "we have inspected the boat. There are certain matters that require your cooperation for clarification. Please accompany us." Lin Chao's heart raced. He stepped forward, shielding Lin Chao. "Comrade, my son is still a student. He knows nothing." The middle-aged officer regarded him calmly. "Mr. Lin, please rest assured, we mean no harm. We simply have some technical questions to discuss with Comrade Lin Chao." "Questions?" Lin Chao was momentarily taken aback. Lin Chao gently patted his father's arm, signaling him to remain calm. "Dad, it's fine." He followed the middle-aged officer out of the room, and Lin Chao hesitated briefly before hastily following suit. The vehicle did not travel far, stopping at another small building within the courtyard. They were ushered into a room resembling a command center. The space was expansive, dominated by a long conference table, and a massive military map adorned the wall. Several individuals were already present, including the distinguished couple from the boat. Upon their arrival, the man offered a nod of acknowledgement to Lin Chao. A middle-aged officer in uniform, whose rank caused Lin Chao's eyelids to flutter, stood nearby, while the young lieutenant maintained a rigid posture. Additionally, there were several men dressed in gray work attire, who appeared to be researchers. In the center of the room lay 3 items, an unsightly, crude cannon and 2 modified gas canisters. Upon seeing these objects, Lin Chao's heart sank once more. All eyes were fixed on Lin Chao as he entered. The highest-ranking officer addressed him first. "Young comrade, there's no need to be tense. We have come to express our gratitude once more. You have saved our people and safeguarded a significant national secret." He paused, gesturing towards the gas canisters with a look of astonishment. "We also wish to gather further information about this weapon." The word weapon was spoken with hesitation, as if searching for an accurate definition. A silver-haired researcher adjusted his glasses and eagerly spoke up. "Comrade, we have examined these 2 shells. The design concept is simply astounding. Utilizing ubiquitous gas canisters as the projectile, filled with homemade explosives and numerous shrapnel, is nothing short of genius. Simple, crude, yet extraordinarily effective." Another researcher in work attire nodded in agreement. "We cannot fathom how you conceived and constructed such a weapon under those conditions. According to the comrades aboard our vessel, a single shell completely obliterated a speedboat. Such power has far surpassed our understanding of conventional homemade explosives." Lin Chao, listening to their discussions, felt a sense of certainty within. He recognized this as his opportunity, one that could elevate the status of himself and his father and secure a formidable ally in this era. Without a hint of hesitation, Lin Chao recounted the previous discourse with his father, employing a more professional and detailed lexicon. The more intricate his explanation became, the more pronounced the expressions on the experts' faces were, from initial astonishment to contemplative silence, ultimately culminating in a dawning realization and uncontainable excitement. Lin Chao, standing aside, listened to his son's esoteric terminology, feeling as though he were in a dream. He found it impossible to reconcile the articulate young man captivating a group of military experts with his own son, who had only ever buried himself in books. Theory serves as the foundation, yet transforming theory into reality necessitates meticulous design and craftsmanship. Lin Chao addressed them directly. "If you require it, I can illustrate the complete design and manufacturing process." Upon hearing this, the room fell into an immediate hush. The middle-aged man and several experts exchanged glances, each reflecting the same fervent excitement. "Young comrade, are you serious?" "Of course," Lin Chao affirmed with a nod. "Excellent." The middle-aged man slammed his hand on the table, promptly issuing orders. "Bring me paper and pencils." Soon, a large sheet of drawing paper was spread across the conference table, accompanied by pristine pencils and erasers placed before Lin Chao. Without a moment's hesitation, he approached the table and grasped the pencil. Everyone gathered around, their eyes fixed upon him with fervent anticipation. Lin Chao's hand was steady, the pencil tip gliding across the white paper, producing a subtle yet distinct rustling sound. He was not sketching a version created with precision instruments in a research facility, but rather a model that could be replicated using the industrial capabilities of the 1970s. He detailed the thickness and material requirements of the steel pipes, the welding methods and reinforcement structures for the base, the modifications to the gas canisters, including how to safely bore holes and fortify the canisters to prevent premature detonation. Moreover, he elucidated the crucial composition of the gunpowder, along with several stabilizers he had added to enhance its potency. Though the raw materials were commonplace in a chemical laboratory, they constituted an exceptionally intricate formula for this era. Lastly, he described the fuse, opting for a more reliable delayed chemical fuse from the future, replacing the crude magnesium strip. As his pencil danced swiftly across the paper, detailed diagrams of components, data, and procedural flows unfolded before the onlookers. The only sound that filled the room was the soft scratch of the pencil against the paper. The researchers leaned in closer, their eyes wide, occasionally uttering suppressed gasps and whispers. "So this is how the chamber pressure is increased. This formula is remarkably ingenious, simply inspired. Look at this fuse design. It's both simple and reliable, significantly enhancing safety. When the final stroke was made, Lin Chao set down the pencil. A complete design lay quietly on the table, unrefined yet brimming with an unsettling power. The middle-aged man lifted his gaze from the drawing, fixated intently on Lin Chao. "Young Zhang," he exclaimed, turning abruptly. "Immediately go to Factory 708. Fetch that old fellow Wang Jinhua for me. Say I, Hiwei need him. Have him bring the best craftsman from the factory, and come here without delay." "Yes." The young officer straightened, executed a crisp turn, and departed swiftly. Chapter 5. The experiment. Lin Jiqiang stood in a corner, feeling like an outsider, bewildered by the unfolding events. Factory 708? He had vaguely heard of it as the largest military factory near Pengcheng. Watching his son surrounded by a throng of officers and experts, he experienced a wave of dizziness. The evolution of events had completely transcended all his life experiences. Within half an hour, the sound of hurried footsteps approached from outside. An elderly man, dressed in a blue work uniform, his hair grizzled, yet his demeanor vibrant, was led in by the young officer, followed by two similarly clad middle-aged men, their hands stained with grease. This man was Wang Jinhua, the director of Factory 708. Upon entering, Wang Jinhua's gaze fell squarely upon the drawing on the conference table. As a veteran who had spent a lifetime working with steel and artillery, he was immediately captivated by the raw aesthetic of the design. He strode quickly to the table, nearly pressing his face against the drawing, and the more he examined it, the more his expression transformed. Suddenly, he lifted his head to meet Hiwei's incredulous eyes. "This is nothing short of inspired. Using the simplest materials and rudimentary techniques, yet capable of unleashing such terrifying power. Minister He, grant me 3 hours, and I shall produce 3 identical units." "Very well," Hiwei responded with a wave of his hand. "Take whoever you need, use whatever materials you require. The entire factory is at your disposal. I want to see this in live fire testing before nightfall." The production workshop at Factory 708 buzzed with activity. Director Wang personally oversaw operations, accompanied by the factory's finest machinists, racing against time to bring the design to life. The typically leisurely production line was now energized, as if injected with adrenaline. The cutting machines roared, and the welding torches spat brilliant sparks. Workers, drenched in sweat, exerted themselves to an unprecedented degree. "Director, we don't have steel pipes of the required thickness in stock. The closest is a millimeter thinner," one worker reported. Wang Jinhua furrowed his brow but quickly replied, "No matter, we'll use the thinner ones. Add 2 extra rings of weld at the base connection and reinforce with angle iron." Lin Chao was invited to the scene, observing quietly. He understood this was not a mere replication. It was the realization of a concept transcending time, crafted with the industrial capabilities of the era. Wang Jinhua and his team were bridging the chasm between theory and reality with their expertise and skill. In just 2.5 hours, 3 rugged yet pristine homemade cannons emerged. They were unattractive but exuded a menacing aura. Wang Jinhua wiped the sweat from his brow, gazing at his creation with excitement. "Young comrade, look. They're identical and sturdier than what you designed," he said, tapping the cannon's body, producing a dull metallic sound. Lin Chao nodded, his eyes filled with admiration. Outskirts of Pengcheng, in a deserted quarry sealed off by the military, the setting sun bathed the cliffs in a golden red hue. The freshly manufactured cannons were secured in position. Their blackened muzzles radiated a primitive and savage aura. Neatly stacked beside them were 9 modified red gas canisters. 200 meters away, an abandoned Liberation brand truck served as the target. Hiwei, Wang Jinhua, and several researchers peered through binoculars, stationed at a makeshift observation post. Their expressions tense. Lin Jiqiang was also brought here, watching the 3 iron monstrosities in the distance, his palms clammy with sweat. He felt as if trapped in an absurd dream, unable to awaken. Only Lin Chao stood calmly at the edge of the observation post, his demeanor as composed as ever. "Prepare," a soldier in charge of operations announced loudly. "Fire." At the commander's signal, the soldier yanked the cord connected to the chemical fuse. There was no earth-shattering sound, only a faint hiss. Everyone held their breath. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Boom. A profoundly thunderous explosion erupted. A visible shockwave surged, sweeping up the dust from the ground and expanding outward. The windows of the observation post vibrated under the strain. A crimson shell, emitting a piercing wail, spiraled forth from the cannon's mouth, colliding fiercely with a distant liberation truck. Time seemed to slow at that moment. Boom! A dazzling orb, more blinding than the setting sun, erupted abruptly in the center of the quarry. The heavy liberation truck was torn into countless burning fragments amidst the ferocious blaze. The explosion's tempest swept up steel balls, iron nails, and remnants of the truck, creating a deadly zone with a radius exceeding 30 meters. Countless shards whizzed past the observation post, embedding themselves deep within the mountainside behind. After a considerable time, as the aftershocks of the explosion dissipated and the flames gradually extinguished, only a charred pit remained in the quarry, scattered with metal parts still emitting wisps of smoke. The liberation truck had been completely obliterated from this world. Silence enveloped the observation post. Wang Jinhua's binoculars clattered to the ground, unnoticed by him. His mouth agape and his gaze vacant, he murmured, "What the hell? This is no mere improvised cannon. Its power rivals that of a 122mm howitzer." He Wei Hua slowly lowered his binoculars, his hands trembling slightly. He turned to Lin Chao. This was no civilian-made weapon. It was unequivocally a subverter of the rules of war. A monstrosity, produced at a negligible cost in a typical machinery factory, yet possessing the might of heavy artillery. He Wei Hua inhaled deeply and approached Lin Chao. "Comrade Lin Chao," he stated gravely, "I express my gratitude on behalf of the organization and the army. You have rendered great service to the nation." He then turned to Lin Jiqiang, the captain he had long overlooked. "Mr. Lin, we have thoroughly investigated your affairs. Although your previous business was somewhat irregular, this time, you risked your life to protect our comrades and national secrets. Your merits and faults balance each other. From now on, you and your son are free." Lin Jiqiang trembled, nearly unable to believe his ears. "As for your boat," the minister paused. "It was severely damaged during the battle. We cannot allow our heroes to suffer both bloodshed and tears." He looked towards the young lieutenant beside him. "Xiaozhong, take them to dock number 3. "Yes." The military jeep traversed the bumpy dirt road. Lin Jiqiang sat in the vehicle, his mind a blank slate. The vehicle eventually halted at a heavily guarded military dock. At the end of the dock, a vessel lay quietly at anchor. Upon seeing the ship, Lin Jiqiang's breath caught in his throat. This was no small fishing boat. It was a large, entirely gray vessel. However, the armaments had been dismantled, leaving only a few vacant gun mounts. "This is a patrol boat decommissioned by the Navy. Originally modified from a 50-ton medium fishing vessel used by the Japanese, which we later captured," He Wei Hua explained. "Other than the weapon systems, all other equipment is intact. It was slated for retirement and storage, intended for transfer to the nearby commune. This vessel will now belong to you." Lin Jiqiang stumbled out of the vehicle and reached out, trembling as he touched the cold, hard steel hull. He had spent his life dealing with boats, from small skiffs to fishing vessels, yet the disparity between those and this grand ship was overwhelming. He suddenly turned to his son, Lin Chao, who had also exited the vehicle. Instead of looking at the ship, he focused on his father. Their gazes met in the air. Chapter 6. The Beyond. Lin Jiqiang looked at Lin Chao. His throat tightened, yet he could not utter a single word. Throughout his life, he had struggled through mud and fought for survival, with his greatest dream being to acquire a medium fishing boat, leaving some assets for his child. Yet this vessel before him surpassed anything he had ever desired. This was not merely a medium fishing boat, it was an armed fishing vessel. He Wei Hua noticed Lin Jiqiang's dazed expression. Assuming it was the ship's origins that troubled him, he began to explain, "Mr. Lin, there is no need for concern. All records of this patrol boat have been destroyed, and the new documentation is complete and above board. It is now simply a civilian vessel." However, at that moment, Lin Chao spoke up. His voice, calm and composed, shattered the stillness of the dock. "Minister He, this ship is too conspicuous." All eyes turned to him. Lin Jiqiang snapped back to attention, gazing at his son. "We are but ordinary fishermen from Xianjiang," Lin Chao continued, surveying the ship's robust lines and empty gun mounts. "Returning with such a vessel would likely result in it being seized by the water police the very next day." He Wei Hua raised an eyebrow, quickly grasping Lin Chao's intent. "What do you propose?" he inquired with interest. "I would like to request the craftsman from Factory 708 to assist," Lin Chao replied, his tone steady. "Transform it back into the appearance of a fishing boat. Install a winch, fishing nets, and a catch compartment. Repaint it to make it look like a high-powered deep-sea fishing vessel." Factory director Wang Jinhua, who had been listening, nodded approvingly, admiration glimmering in his eyes. This young man not only understood technology, but also the nuances of human relationships and the art of concealment. Hui Hua chuckled heartily. Very well. This is no difficult task. Director Wang, I entrust this matter to you. However, Lin Chao continued, having dismantled the ship's weapons is less than ideal. The waters around Xiangjiang are not peaceful. My son and I must have means of self-defense. The atmosphere shifted subtly with this statement. Lin Jiqiang's heart leaped into his throat. Hui Hua's gaze flickered. He scrutinized Lin Chao, seemingly attempting to peer into the young man's mind. Heroes should not shed blood and tears, nor should they be left defenseless. After a moment of contemplation, Hui Hua made a decision. We can leave you a machine gun aboard, along with 5 basic loads of ammunition. He pointed to the largest gun mount at the bow. A 53 type heavy machine gun will suffice. Lin Jiqiang inhaled sharply. A heavy machine gun. That weapon is meant for land use. One burst could penetrate a wall. However, Lin Chao shook his head. No. What? Hui Hua was taken aback. It's too obvious, Lin Chao replied slowly, gazing at the empty gun mount. Having a machine gun mounted on the deck would attract too much attention. We do not wish to invite trouble. What I need is the capability to reveal our weapons swiftly when trouble arises. He turned to Wang Jinhua. Director Wang, I would like to request your assistance in designing a concealed folding machine gun mount. The machine gun and its mount can be entirely stowed away beneath the deck, rendering them undetectable from the outside. When needed, one person could deploy it within 10 seconds, ready for combat. Wang Jinhua's eyes lit up instantly. This idea excited him far more than merely retaining a machine gun. Concealment, folding, rapid response. This was not just about hiding weapons. It embodied a tactical philosophy. No problem, Wang Jinhua declared. I will personally lead a team to ensure it is done meticulously. Hui Hua did not inquire further, merely nodding resolutely. We shall proceed as you suggest. In the following 2 days, the dock at Factory 708 became the busiest place in the entire factory. Wang Jinhua truly took the lead, working alongside the best craftsmen to transform the patrol boat with fervor. Lin Chao did not stand idly by. He drafted detailed structural diagrams for the folding mount and provided precise calculations for several critical mechanical nodes. For 2 days, Lin Jiqiang did nothing but quietly observe the ship at the dock, watching as it transformed under the hands of the workers. The original paint was ground away, replaced with the blue and white hues typical of fishing vessels. A massive winch and a lifting crane were welded onto the deck. 2 days later, as the renovations reached completion, the once formidable gunboat had completely vanished, replaced by a brand new ocean fishing vessel. No one could have anticipated that this seemingly innocuous fishing boat could instantaneously transform into a maritime fortress. Beneath the concealed hatch of a storage compartment at the bow, the ominous silhouette of a 53 type heavy machine gun lay in silent slumber. The moment of departure had arrived. Minister He and Wang Jinhua personally came to the dock to bid farewell. Comrade Lin Chao, should you require anything or have any new ideas in the future, do not hesitate to come to Pengcheng and find us. Minister He grasped Lin Chao's hand and shook it firmly. He then presented a brown paper envelope containing all the documentation for the vessel, along with a permanent pass for military docks. Minister He patted the back of Lin Chao's hand. This dock will always welcome your return. Consider it a second home. Lin Jiqiang stood aside, gazing at the envelope, his heart filled with profound emotion. Old man, let us board. Lin Chao's voice broke through the moment. Lin Jiqiang snapped back to reality and nodded silently. The father and son ascended the vessel, which Lin Chao had named Transcendence. Lin Jiqiang stepped into the spacious and brightly lit cockpit, placing his hand upon the cold, heavy helm. He turned the key. A deep, powerful roar emanated from the depths of the ship. The engine had started, its sound starkly contrasting the anguished cries of their former decrepit vessel. It was a roar imbued with strength. The Transcendence slowly departed from the dock, its hull slicing smoothly through the deep blue waters, leaving a pristine white wake in its path. Chapter 7. Maritime Conference. The sea breeze, tinged with a salty tang, fluttered the edges of Lin Chao's clothing. The hull of the Transcendence was sturdy and stable, parting the waves without a hint of the turmoil associated with an old fishing boat. Within the cockpit, Lin Jiqiang gripped the helm tightly, feeling the surge of power from the military-grade engine. He occasionally stole glances at his son standing nearby, Lin Chao, who gazed calmly at the distant outline of Xiangjiang, as if all that had transpired before was but a dream. Old man, Lin Chao's voice pierced the silence. How do we explain this vessel to others when we return? Lin Chao was jolted, realizing that this question was of utmost importance. We'll say we went to sea, our old boat broke down, and we drifted for a few days. His voice was hoarse yet hurried. Fortuitously, we encountered an acquaintance from the mainland who happened to have an old boat he no longer wanted. So we purchased it at a low price and spent a few days repairing it before returning. This excuse was both plausible and reasonable, adequately explaining their disappearance and the origins of the new vessel. Lin Chao nodded. It will have to do. Yet, Lin Chao's brow furrowed deeper. But this boat is far too large and conspicuous. Our old vessel, though barely manageable for the two of us, was nothing compared to this. Just hauling nets and unloading cargo requires at least 3 or 5 men. His expression darkened. Xiang has also left. Zhao Xiang had been his apprentice for 5 years and the only crew member aboard. A week prior, Zhao Xiang had bid farewell, expressing his intentions to work with the Yuehai gang. Lin Chao had not intervened, knowing that his own vessel would eventually be passed down to Lin Chao. Zhao Xiang would merely be a helmsman for life, never to become a shipowner. The Yuehai gang was different, a major faction within Xianjiang circles. They had recently grown ambitious, unwilling to play second fiddle. They had purchased a 70-ton mid-sized fishing vessel, intending to run routes in Southeast Asia for smuggling, to attract skilled hands. The Yuehai gang had proclaimed that any capable seafarer could earn shares and become a shipowner if they performed well. Zhao Xiang had been swayed by this promise. It was precisely due to Zhao Xiang's departure that Lin Chao had summoned Lin Chao, who was on summer break, to assist on the boat. Who could have foreseen that this journey would nearly cost both father and son their lives? The waters of Xianjiang are treacherous, Lin Chao said solemnly. Our old boat was overlooked by the major factions. Now, with this new vessel, it's like a piece of prime meat. Who knows how many eyes will be upon us? Lin Chao withdrew his gaze from the far-off horizon and regarded his father's weathered face, etched with worry. Old man, we can no longer operate as we did before. Gather a few of your trustworthy old mates. We shall form our own crew, and this vessel will become our own banner. Lin Chao's heart raced. Forming a crew? Wasn't he that akin to rallying a force and establishing a domain of their own? He had spent his life serving others or struggling alone, never contemplating such a step. Running smuggling operations in coastal waters will yield considerable profits, Lin Chao continued. However, one thing must be clear, we will never engage in drug trafficking. Lin Chao's pupils dilated sharply, and we can no longer remain in the shadows. Lin Chao scanned the newly refurbished equipment within the cockpit. Upon our return, we will register a fishing company. From now on, the Transcendence will be the company's vessel, and we shall be legitimate fishermen setting sail to catch fish. Lin Chao opened his mouth, rendered speechless. His son's series of plans left him in a daze. Recruiting people, starting a company, engaging in legitimate business as a facade. As for me, Lin Chao paused, directing his gaze out the window towards the approaching direction of Lujia village. I wish to consult with uncle about leasing the barren land by the sea to establish a shipyard. A shipyard? Lin Chao was utterly bewildered. Yes, Lin Chao affirmed with a nod. It will be a joint venture with uncle. Officially, we will repair boats, but in reality, we can manufacture our own equipment. His voice carried a confidence that Lin Chao found incomprehensible, starting with marine engines and propellers. Eventually, we could even build our own boats. Lin Chao felt as though his heart might leap from his throat. Manufacturing engines? Building boats? He looked at his son, whose youthful visage now bore an ambition he had never witnessed before. Suddenly, he understood. His son was no longer the child who required his protection. Lin Chao remained silent for a long while, then nodded resolutely. He asked nothing, merely tightened his grip on the helm. The ship sped swiftly. During their discussion, the familiar dock of Lujia village appeared on the horizon. Before the vessel could even moor, the dock was abuzz with activity. A figure dashed out from a small shed by the dock. Lin Chao's uncle, Lu Yaoming. Several young villagers followed closely behind him. With Lin Chao and his son having been unreachable for days, Lu Yaoming had been anxious, developing blisters on his lips from worry, and had stationed people at the dock daily. Upon seeing such a massive fishing vessel approaching, he was momentarily stunned. Then, he spotted Lin Chao at the bow and Lin Chao in the cockpit. Relief washed over him, but the next moment, overwhelming shock obliterated any joy from their reunion. He pointed at the Transcendence, larger than all the fishing boats in the village combined, his mouth agape, unable to utter a single word. As the fishing boat gently docked and settled, Lin Chao shut off the engine and exited the cockpit. He leaped onto the dock and approached his brother-in-law. Observing Lu Yaoming's astonished expression, Lin Chao firmly patted his shoulder. Let us go home and talk. Chapter 8. The initial establishment of the base inside the earthen house of Lujia village. The air was stifling, thick enough to wring water from it. Lu Yaoming stared intently at Lin Chao, then turned to glance at Lin Chao, who was quietly peeling an apple beside him, the muscles in his face twitching from shock. Brother-in-law, could you repeat that? We have encountered good fortune. Lin Chao lifted a bowl of cold tea from the table, gulping it down. He reiterated the explanation he had prepared with his son during their journey. The ship was damaged and adrift at sea when it encountered a fellow villager who had made a fortune in the mainland and offered a dilapidated vessel at a low price. Lu Yaoming was not a fool. He observed Lin Chao's injured left arm and felt an overwhelming sense of disbelief. What kind of villager would have such a ship lying idle, only to transfer it to him for a pittance? What old vessel could appear so well kept? Brother-in-law? Speak to me honestly, Lu Yaoming whispered, leaning in closer. Have you joined some major gang? His greatest fear was that Lin Chao had returned to his old ways. Lin Chao fell silent and did not respond, unsure of how to answer. Should he confess that his son had crafted a cannon from a gas canister, sending a boatload of foreign agents skyward, and that the mainland military had gifted them a gunboat in gratitude? Such revelations would likely have him labeled a madman. Uncle. At that moment, Lin Chao spoke up, casually handing over a peeled apple. The ship's documentation is complete, and its origins are legitimate. We've returned simply to live a stable life. His calm demeanor seemed to carry an undeniable authority. Lu Yaoming accepted the apple, gazing into his nephew's eyes. What was on the tip of his tongue was swallowed back down. With a sigh, he ceased his inquiries. Very well, he said, biting into the apple with a loud crunch. As long as you're safe, that's what matters. But the two of you cannot manage this ship alone. Lin Chao extinguished his cigarette. Yaoming, I'll step out for a bit to gather some old comrades. Old comrades. Lu Yaoming's heart sank. He knew the kind of people Lin Chao referred to. Those who had once followed him from the Weihai gang, now scattered across Hong Kong, doing menial labor as fugitives. Do you really want to associate with them again? It's different now. Lin Chao shook his head, his eyes resolute. Before, we worked for others. Now, we work for ourselves. With that, he stood up and left the room without further explanation. Under the night sky, Kowloon walled city resembled a colossal beehive. Lin Chao navigated the narrow alleyways, avoiding the foul water and debris strewn about. The air was thick with the acrid scent of cheap meals, tobacco, and mildew, a no-man's land where his old comrades concealed themselves. He entered a smoky underground mahjong parlor, where the raucous sounds of tiles being shuffled and coarse language assaulted his ears. A tattooed man, shirtless, blocked his path. Brother Chong, what brings you here? Lin Chao recognized him as a former underling. Are Bao and Shanji here? The man hesitated before gesturing towards the back room. Lin Chao pushed through the door. Inside, two weathered yet fierce-looking men were playing cards, smoking. Upon seeing Lin Chao, their cards clattered to the table. Brother Chong? Without wasting words, Lin Chao slapped a crumpled note on the table. Lejiakan Wharf, 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Anyone who wants to join me, come. After delivering his message, he turned and left without a trace of hesitation. The two men exchanged glances, astonishment and excitement flickering in their eyes. They picked up the note, which bore only an address, yet they understood that the fearless leader who once led them through storms had returned. Over the next 2 days, Lin Chao traversed the docks of Kun Tong, the makeshift shelters of Sham Shui Po, and even visited the refugee camps in Tiu Kong Long, reconnecting with his old brothers. He made no promises of riches nor painted grand visions of the future. He simply stated, I, Lin Chao, am back, with a new ship and in need of a few brothers. Meanwhile, Lin Chao was not idle. He approached his uncle, Lu Yaoming, who was mending fishing nets at the village entrance. Uncle, I wish to discuss something with you. What is it? Lu Yaoming didn't look up from his work. I want to acquire the wasteland at the east end of the village. Lu Yaoming paused, surprised, and raised his head to stare at Lin Chao. What do you want that land for? It's barren, and the foundation is too soft for building. I want to open a ship repair yard, Lin Chao replied calmly. What? A ship repair yard? Lu Yaoming thought he misheard. Yes, Lin Chao nodded earnestly. Our village and the neighboring ones have over 100 fishing boats. Whenever a ship breaks down, it must be taken to Aberdeen or Sai Kung for repairs, far and costly. If we establish our own, We 1T lack for business. Lu Yaoming fell silent, taken aback by Lin Chao's audacious proposal. Opening a shipyard would require substantial funds. What about the skills and labor? Leave the money to me. Lin Chao seemed to read his uncle's concerns. I have the knowledge. As for labor, there are plenty of young men in the village who are idle. They might as well learn a trade to support their families. He paused, adding a hint of persuasion to his tone. Uncle, we can partner in this venture. You provide the land and labor, and we'll split the shares, with you holding 40%. When villagers come to repair their boats, we'll charge them the lowest rates. Any profits at the year's end will be shared among the village. Lu Yaoming's heart raced, not for himself, but as the village chief, he had to consider the livelihood of the entire community. The prospect Lin Chao painted was too tempting, a means for all to benefit. Can this really work? Lu Yaoming's voice was dry. It can work, Lin Chao answered firmly. We don't need to start too large. Let us just enclose the land and build a simple shed with a gantry crane. We can begin with basic repairs and engine work. In time, we could even manufacture our own propellers and engines. Manufacture our own engines? Lu Yaoming felt overwhelmed. Why not? Lin Chao countered. As long as we have the blueprints, equipment, and materials, there's nothing we can't create. His confidence profoundly inspired Lu Yaoming. Lu Yaoming gazed at his nephew, as if seeing a remarkable creature. He couldn't fathom how a university student could possess such knowledge. Yet, he chose to trust him. After all, it was merely a patch of salt marsh, often left untended. All right, Lu Yaoming exclaimed, casting the fishing net aside. Let us do it. That very afternoon, Lu Yaoming gathered a dozen idle young men from the village. He pointed to the wasteland to the east, passionately urging them to get to work. From today onward, we will level this land and build a wall. This will become our Legiacan shipyard. What Chaozi said is true. At year's end, we'll all share the profits, and everyone will have work. Initially, the young men were skeptical, but when they saw their village chief personally taking up a shovel, they were motivated, each shouting as they rushed to join in. For the first time in years, the neglected salt marsh buzzed with life and dust. Lin Chao stood at a distance, observing the fervent scene, his expression largely unreadable. This was merely the first step. An industrial base of his own was quietly taking root on this barren land. 2 days later, in the evening, Lin Jiqiang returned, accompanied by 4 men. Among them were Chun Bao and Li Shanj, both of whom had once followed him from the Yuehai gang. The others, Wang Datu and Shouho, were also tough characters who made their living through brute strength at the docks. Each bore the marks of hardship, yet their eyes rekindled with life. Lu Yaoming's wife prepared a simple meal, devoid of alcohol, but rich in meat. The men gathered around, devouring the food ravenously. Lin Jiqiang watched them, glancing at his son seated quietly at the side, his heart a tumult of emotions. Ultimately, he had returned to this path, but this time, he was no longer at the helm. At that moment, a hesitant figure peeked through the gate. It was a young man in his early 20s, with dark skin and a look of unease and timidity in his eyes. Upon spotting Lin Jiqiang seated at the table, his eyes brightened momentarily, only to dim again. Master. Lin Jiqiang raised his head, his brow furrowing instantly upon recognizing the visitor. It was Zhao Xiang, the apprentice who had bid him farewell a week prior to join the Yuehai gang. What brought him here? Chapter 9. Out of money, the ravenous feasting within the room abruptly ceased at the sight of the figure at the doorway. Chen Bao's fingers tightened around his chopsticks, turning pale, while Li Shan's chicken subtly shifted his chair back. The atmosphere turned icy as several pairs of eyes became cold and silent, hands discreetly moving toward their waists. The air was thick with tension. Zhao Xiang's face flickered between shades of red and white under the dim light, his legs feeling as heavy as lead. He dared not look at Lin Jiqiang, nor at the men at the table whose gazes were sharp as knives. Master. His voice was dry, tinged with a plea. Lin Jiqiang set down his chopsticks, his expression inscrutable, revealing no trace of emotion. He remained silent, simply observing the apprentice he had painstakingly raised. Under his gaze, Zhao Xiang felt a chill run through him, and finally, unable to bear the weight of that scrutiny, he dropped to his knees at the threshold. Master. The leader of the Yuehai gang, Long Ge, wishes to invite you for a chat. The Yuehai gang? Chen Bao sneered, about to rise, but was halted by a glance from Lin Jiqiang. Finally, Lin Jiqiang spoke. I have no ties to the Yuehai gang anymore. Zhao Xiang's head lowered further. Long Ge says that the past is behind us. You are a senior, master. Now that you have a large ship, we are all brothers making a living at sea. and should grow closer. Closer? Lin Jiqiang lifted his teacup, blowing at the non-existent leaves. What kind of closeness do you mean? Zhao Xiang swallowed hard. Summoning his courage to say, Long Go means, we can prosper together. He has plenty of goods coming from the South Seas with high profits. Your ship is large and powerful. One trip is worth several of others. A profound silence enveloped the room. Everyone knew what kind of goods Zhao Xiang was referring to. Lin Jiqiang's fingers tapped lightly on the rough wooden table, once, then again. He understood that it was not him that the Yuehai gang was interested in, but rather the vessel, the Chaoyu. He was currently short-handed and his foundation unstable. A direct refusal would be tantamount to tearing the mask off. Given the Yuehai gang's current influence in Xianjiang, they could easily ensure his ship remained docked. Lin Chao, seated nearby, had not uttered a word. After a lengthy pause, Lin Jiqiang ceased his tapping. Go back and tell Long Xiaodian. Collaboration is possible. I, Lin Jiqiang, have spent half a lifetime at sea, and I value friendship. Zhao Xiang's head shot up, a flicker of hope in his eyes. However, Lin Jiqiang's tone shifted, his gaze turning sharp. My ship cannot carry too much cargo. Nor can it travel too far. Coastal business can be directed my way, but I cannot manage long-distance routes. He paused, enunciating each word, and as for narcotics, I will not engage. The joy on Zhao Xiang's face froze. He understood that this final statement was the crux of the matter. Lin Jiqiang was drawing his line in the sand. I will relay your message to Long Gu, Zhao Xiang stammered, rising unsteadily and disappearing into the night. The atmosphere in the room remained oppressive. Brother Chong, we cannot trust those scoundrels from the Yuehai gang. Chun Bao could no longer contain himself. I know. Lin Jiqiang resumed his meal with chopsticks, but we currently have no alternatives. He needed time. And feigning cooperation with the Yuehai gang was a strategy to buy time for himself and Lin Chao. The Yuehai gang's headquarters was situated in a Tang-style building in Yao Mati. The leader, Long Gu, whose full name was Long Xiaodian, was a man in his 40s with a rugged demeanor. He was meticulously trimming his nails with a small knife. Zhao Xiang, with his head bowed, recounted Lin Jiqiang's words verbatim. Not engaging in narcotics? Long Gu paused, lifting his gaze to scrutinize Zhao Xiang. Did Lin Jiqiang still consider himself one of the 5 tigers from back in the day? A henchman leaned in, saying, Boss, this old fellow is ungrateful. His ship has an unclear origin. It would be better to. The henchman made a slitting gesture across his throat. Fool, Long Gu scolded sharply. Lin Jiqiang has suddenly acquired such a vessel. There must be unseen layers to this. We will proceed as he suggested. Let us offer him some coastal business. Have him transport electrical appliances and watches for us. A cold smile crept across Long Ji's face. Keep a close watch on him. Once I have discerned his true nature, that ship will be mine, and he will have to obediently serve. In the ensuing days, the dock at Lajiakan became extraordinarily busy. The Chaoyu set sail almost daily. Lin Jiqiang, accompanied by Chun Bao and others, began accepting some smuggling jobs. They had old clients, and also orders funneled through Zhao Xiang from the Yuehai gang. Like a swarm of silent worker ants, they transported boxes of radios, cotton fabric, and more from the high seas, distributing them quietly. Lin Jiqiang used the first earnings to pay for Chun Bao and the others' settlement fees, giving every remaining penny to Lin Chao, who dedicated all his efforts to the construction of the shipyard. The once abandoned saline land at the village's eastern end had transformed significantly. Walls had been erected, and the foundation laid. The blueprints drawn by Lin Chao were coming to life. Simple steel-structured factories were rising, and a massive gantry crane was starting to take shape. The village's youth were filled with vigor, witnessing the rapidly changing construction site, as if glimpsing a promising future. Yet, Lin Chao felt an increasing anxiety within. Standing on the construction site, surveying everything before him, his mind was consumed by a string of cold figures. Rebar, cement, angle iron, cables, welding equipment, lathes, drill presses. Each item required capital. The little money Lin Jiqiang earned from running the ship yielded no visible results. The land belonged to the village, and the laborers were from the village, but materials and equipment had to be purchased with real money. He was out of funds, completely broke. In the dead of night, Lin Chao returned once more to his own world. The Automated Research Institute was brightly lit and eerily quiet, allowing him to hear his own heartbeat. For the first time, he felt an overwhelming sense of agitation. Money. He needed money. Lin Chao burst into the offices of the researchers, frantically searching. He hoped to find something of value. Watches, jewelry, gold, anything that could be liquidated in this era. However, this was a national research institute, not a treasure trove. The researchers lived in stark simplicity. The offices contained nothing but books, documents, and experimental equipment. He scoured the entire office area, finding nothing. Finally, in a fit of despair, he opened the last drawer of an office. The occupant of this office was one of the few female researchers in the institute. Inside the drawer lay only a small velvet box. Lin Chao opened it to discover a ring adorned with a diamond. He held the ring up to the light. The diamond was small and poorly cut, reflecting only a faint glimmer. A wave of profound disappointment washed over him. This item might fetch a little money in this era, but it was but a drop in the ocean compared to his vast financial deficit. Despondently, he sat in the chair, fiddling with the ring. Suddenly, a memory flashed through his mind. It was during his time at the institute when he had seen the female researcher cleaning this very ring during a lunch break. A colleague had joked, "Shaoli, you're admiring your treasure again. That must have cost a pretty penny." The female researcher had laughed lightly, replying casually, "What is it worth? It's synthetic. Now, this object resembles glass, merely a superficial imitation." The phrase artificially synthesized struck Lin Chao's mind like a lightning bolt, clearing the fog that had enveloped it. He abruptly sprang from his chair, fixating intently on the small diamond in his hand. A memory surfaced. This research facility housed a materials science laboratory, equipped with a high-temperature, high-pressure synthesis device. This apparatus was primarily designed for investigating novel ultra-hard materials, but it also served the purpose of manufacturing industrial-grade diamonds, namely, synthetic diamonds. What is the most exorbitant cost in producing synthetic diamonds? It is electricity. The immense power required to maintain that device's terrifying high temperatures and pressures. But in this space, Lin Chao looked up at the ever-burning lights on the ceiling. This research institute, seemingly detached from the real world, appeared to possess boundless energy. A wild idea erupted in his mind. He could no longer contain the overwhelming joy and excitement within him. He clenched the ring tightly and dashed out of the office, racing toward the room etched in his memory. Chapter 10, Synthetic Diamonds Materials Science Laboratory. Lin Chao pushed open the lead door, and in the center of the room lay a colossal steel apparatus. It was a high-temperature, high-pressure synthesis device, its intricate pipelines sprawling across its body, connecting to precision instruments that were astonishingly detailed. Its core function was to replicate the extreme conditions found deep within the mantle, thus enabling the creation of industrial-grade diamonds, synthetic diamonds. Previously, he had regarded it as merely an ordinary machine, but at this moment, it unfolded before him like a gold mine. Lin Chao's breath quickened, his heart pounding wildly in his chest. He rushed to the device, his hands gliding over the cold metallic surface. Without a moment's hesitation, he sprang into action. First, he bolted into the adjacent ultra-clean workshop, activating the laser engraving machine. The female researcher's ring was carefully secured on the workstation. The display screen magnified the grain-sized diamond several hundred times. Lin Chao's fingers flew across the control panel, and a laser beam, as fine as a hair, shot forth with precision. In silence, the small synthetic diamond was flawlessly sliced into 8 thinner pieces. Each fragment served as a perfect seed. Returning to the main laboratory, Lin Chao opened the growth chamber of the high-temperature, high-pressure device. He placed the 8 diamond seeds inside, along with high-purity graphite powder sourced from the chemical warehouse. He set the parameters, calibrated the pressure, and input the commands. The slumbering giant was awakened. The device emitted a deep rumble, and the needles of countless dials began to gradually shift, with indicator lights illuminating in sequence. Terrifying temperatures and pressures were furiously coalescing within that small growth chamber. Lin Chao focused on the values climbing steadily on the screen until everything stabilized. According to the standard procedure, the generation of the first batch of diamonds would take 8 days. However, here, it required less than a day in the real world. The following day, as dawn broke, the construction site at the eastern edge of Lu Family Village was already bustling with activity. Lin Chao stood before a pile of rebar, directing the village's young men on how to tie the foundation. He shouted slogans, gesturing dimensions with his hands, while his mind was consumed by thoughts of the diamonds in cultivation. His uncle, Lu Yaoming, passed by carrying a bag of cement, sweat glistening on his brow. "Chaozi, at this rate, the factory will be topped out next month." Lin Chao nodded, forcing a smile. He knew that merely having a factory was futile. Without equipment and materials, it was just an empty shell. He toiled throughout the day, When night fell once more, he hurried back to his room, eager to re-enter the research institute. He dashed to the still rumbling device. The cultivation cycle had concluded. Lin Chao's palms were slick with sweat. He took a deep breath and pressed the buttons for depressurization and cooling. The sound of high-pressure gas releasing was akin to a demon's sigh. Minutes later, the hatch of the growth chamber slowly opened, and a wave of heat rushed out. Lin Chao leaned in to look, his heart momentarily stopping. The original graphite powder had vanished. In its place were 8 transparent, shimmering diamonds. Each was over 10 times larger than the original seeds, with the largest resembling the size of a fingernail. It was a triumph. A surge of elation coursed through him like electricity. He nearly burst into laughter. In the days that followed, Lin Chao immersed himself in the joy of diamond manufacturing like a mad alchemist. He recut the diamonds he had harvested into seeds and returned them to the growth chamber. Once, twice, thrice, like a snowball effect. In a matter of days, Lin Chao had amassed dozens of rough diamonds of varying sizes. Gazing at the mountain of glistening stones on his workstation, Lin Chao calmed himself. These were merely stones. To maximize their value, the most crucial step of cutting remained. He plunged once more into the machining workshop. Lin Chao set his sights on a 5-axis laser machine designed for processing special ceramics. He spent 2 days and nights, nearly sleepless, writing thousands of lines of code to restructure the machine's motion logic. During this time, due to erroneous parameters, he even burned 2 rough stones. Finally, in the early hours of the 3rd day, the machine was debugged. Lin Chao placed the largest rough stone into the fixture and started the program. Inside the machine, the robotic arm moved with precision, alternating between the laser beam and ultrasonic blade, producing fine diamond dust continuously. Hours later, when the machine ceased operation, a flawless diamond with 57 facets lay quietly on the tray, under the bright lights of the research institute. It refracted light in a dazzling display that was blinding to behold. As Lin Chao gazed at this perfect piece of artistry, he felt little joy. A new dilemma arose. How to convert these treasures into currency? Was he to simply sell them outright? A few pieces might suffice, but presenting dozens at once would likely attract the attention of powerful factions in Hong Kong. The age-old tale of betrayal was all too common in this era. Furthermore, he needed an impeccable cover story, an explanation for why a destitute student could possess such a bounty of diamonds. Lin Chao sat in his office, his fingers unconsciously tapping on the desk. Various faces from Hong Kong University flashed through his mind. Affluent local students, wealthy offspring from Southeast Asia. Suddenly, a few dark-skinned figures flickered in his thoughts. They were among the few African international students at the school. An idea began to grow in his mind like wild grass. Warlords, civil war conflicts, blood diamonds. A perfect script rapidly formed in Lin Chao's mind. He was not the producer of the diamonds. Rather, he was merely an intermediary helping his African peers sell stolen goods, taking a trivial cut for himself. This identity would adequately explain the origin of the diamonds and justify his urgency to sell, all while maintaining a low profile. Moreover, the very background of this African warlord would serve as a deterrent, prompting potential buyers to weigh their own fortunes carefully. With the plan in place, Lin Chao selected 10 diamonds of varying sizes from the pile. He casually grabbed a coarse cloth bag meant for holding parts from his office and tossed the 10 diamonds inside. Then, he exited the research institute. In the earthen house of Liu family village, Lin Jiqiang sat at the table, polishing a horn dagger under the dim light. This had been his companion since his youth. Chun Bao and Li Shanjia had already been settled into several vacant houses in the village. The shipping team was taking shape, but Lin Jiqiang remained anxious. His son's shipyard was a bottomless pit. The meager earnings from his shipping ventures could hardly fill it. The door creaked open, and Lin Chao walked in. "Dad." Lin Jiqiang looked up at his son, setting down the dagger. "Is there something you need?" Lin Chao remained silent, simply closing the door with a decisive motion and securing it with a bolt. Lin Jiqiang furrowed his brow, a sense of unease gripping his heart. What's wrong? Lin Chao pulled out a stool and sat down across from him, placing a dusty burlap bag on the table. Lin Jiqiang regarded the bag with curiosity. "What is this?" Without a word, Lin Chao nodded towards it. "Open it and see." Lin Jiqiang, filled with suspicion, picked up the bag, feeling its weight significantly. He untied the strings and turned the bag upside down, letting its contents spill onto the table. Clink, clink, clink. 10 crystalline stones tumbled out, glimmering in the dim light of the oil lamp. At first, Lin Jiqiang mistook them for mere pieces of attractive glass. Yet, When one of the stones rolled near the lamp, the refracted rainbow light struck his eyes like a bolt. Instinctively, he grabbed the polished horn dagger resting on the table. He picked up the smallest stone and struck it fiercely with the dagger's tip. After a harsh screech, he focused closely, his pupils abruptly narrowing. The stone bore no mark, while the proud tip of his dagger had chipped slightly. The dagger slipped from Lin Chau's hand, clattering onto the table. He lifted his gaze, locking eyes with his son, his throat constricting as he managed to squeeze out a few words. Where did this come from? Chapter 11. Selling goods. A classmate from school. Lin Chao finally spoke. His family is in Africa, where there's war, and they asked him to bring something back to exchange for money. This explanation had been rehearsed countless times in Lin Chao's mind. As a student, he feared to confront the situation directly, wary of being caught in a trap. I'm his only trusted friend. He asked me for help, promising me 30% of the proceeds. Lin Chau's mind went blank. Africa, war, money. These words combined to reveal two words: blood diamonds. Yet, he grasped the most crucial point. A trap. He gazed at the 10 diamonds on the table, feeling they were not treasures, but searing death warrants. No. Lin Chao nearly shouted. We can't touch this. Let him find another way. He reached out to sweep the diamonds back into the bag. Dad. Lin Chao pressed his hand down. His grip was steady and strong. We're out of money. Lin Chao looked deeply into his father's eyes, speaking each word with conviction. The shipyard will cease operations tomorrow. The villagers have entrusted us with their land and labor. They are all waiting for the year-end dividends and jobs at the factory. We cannot let them down. Each of Lin Chao's words struck Lin Chau's heart like a hammer. He understood the shipyard's plight all too well. Every penny he earned from running boats lately felt like it was swallowed by the depths of the sea, leaving not a sound. That sight was a bottomless pit. Lin Chao looked again at the diamonds, his gaze filled with struggle and anguish. Having navigated the underworld for a lifetime, he understood one truth. Windfall that does not belong to you must be paid for with your life. If we pursue legitimate channels, we will be fed to the fish by tomorrow. Lin Chau's voice was hoarse. Those jewelers are backed by powerful forces, operating in both the shadows and light. We, with no roots and holding such goods, would be delivering ourselves like a feast. I know. Lin Chao nodded. That is why I came to you. Lin Chao fell silent. He closed his eyes, countless faces flashing through his mind. After a long pause, he opened his eyes. There is a path forward, he said slowly. But it comes with a heavy cost. How much? Half. Lin Chao held up 5 fingers. Perhaps even more. Those involved are ruthless, their hearts darker than ink. Lin Chao's eyelids didn't flutter. As long as we can secure the money, accepting a loss of half is a fair trade. He asserted firmly. The factory cannot wait. What we need now is not to sell high, but to save our lives. Lin Chao nodded heavily. His son's decisiveness extinguished the last flicker of hesitation in his heart. He stood up, walked to the door, and unbolted it. A bow, Shanji. Immediately, sounds of moving furniture came from the adjacent room. Chun Bao and Li Shanji rushed in one after the other. Brother Chong, what's the matter? Bring De Tu and Shou Ho as well. Lin Chao directed his gaze toward the dock. Arm yourselves. Prepare to set sail. We're heading to Ao Island. Chun Bao and Li Shanji exchanged glances, both sensing the gravity in each other's eyes. Going to Ao Island and arming themselves. This was no ordinary cargo run. Yet, they asked no questions, simply nodding in agreement before turning to gather the others. Lin Chao repacked the diamonds into the bag, tightening the opening, and handed it to Lin Chao. Lin Chao received it, placing it securely against himself. The night was as dark as ink. The Chaoyu quietly slipped away from the dock at Lujia village, slicing through the pitch-black waters towards Ao Island. In the cockpit, Lin Chao took the helm personally. Chun Bao, Li Shanji, Wang De Tu, and Shou Ho stood silently along the ship's sides, their waists bulging with weapons, vigilantly watching the dark sea. Lin Chao stood behind his father, gazing towards the distant sky illuminated by countless neon lights. 2 hours later, the Chaoyu did not approach the bustling passenger terminal of Ao Island, but anchored in a rocky area offshore. Lin Chao lowered a small skiff. A Chaoyu. De Tu and Shou Ho stay on the boat. I'll go with a Bao and Shanji, he instructed in a low voice. Remember, if we aren't back in an hour or if anything seems amiss, you must leave immediately without looking back. Lin Chao looked at his father's sharply defined face in the darkness, nodding heavily. Understood, Dad. Lin Chao said no more. Leaping onto the skiff with Chun Bao and Li Shanji, quickly disappearing into the night. Ao Island, Inner Harbor. In a back alley reeking of fish and diesel, Lin Chao entered a mahjong parlor devoid of any signage. Inside, smoke swirled as several shirtless gamblers shouted hoarsely. Lin Chao navigated through the hazy hall, stopping at a card table in a corner. A hefty man with a face full of flesh, wearing a gold chain as thick as a thumb, sat there smoking a cigar, idly observing the game. He was Fei Jiao, the largest black market dealer in Ao Island, specializing in goods of dubious origin. Upon seeing Lin Chao, Fei Jiao's eyes narrowed, and he waved his hand, dismissing the players at the table. "Brother Chong, what brings you here?" Fei Jiao stood up with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He was half a head shorter than Lin Chao, but weighed twice as much. "I have some goods I'd like you to take a look at, Jiu Yi." Lin Chao got straight to the point. Fei Jiao's smile faltered. He sized up Lin Chao and the two men behind him, whose eyes glimmered like wolves. "Brother Chong, haven't you retired from this life? I'm in a tight spot and need to make some quick money." Lin Chao pulled out a chair and sat down unceremoniously. Fei Jiao stared at him for several seconds before leisurely returning to his seat and pouring a cup of tea for Lin Chao. "What kind of goods warrants your personal visit, Brother Chong?" Lin Chao remained silent, instead pulling out the burlap bag from his coat and placing it on the table. Fei Jiao's gaze fell upon the worn bag. He stretched out his plump hand, feeling the bag before his expression subtly shifted. He untied the strings and carefully poured its contents onto the red velvet-covered table. 10 diamonds of varying sizes rolled out. In the dim light of the mahjong parlor, they still emitted an undeniable, dazzling brilliance. Fei Jiao's breath caught in his throat. His small eyes widened, fixated on the diamonds, his flesh trembling uncontrollably. He has been in the business for decades, dealing in gold, silver, jewelry, and antiques, witnessing countless treasures. Yet, he has never encountered raw diamonds of such exquisite quality. Especially not 10 at once. After a prolonged moment of shock, he regained his composure. Instead of handling them with his hands, he retrieved a high-powered magnifying glass and a pair of tweezers from the drawer, carefully picking up the smallest diamond. He scrutinized it under the light, and with each passing moment, the gravity of his expression deepened. A fine piece indeed. He set the magnifying glass down, his voice slightly hoarse. He lifted his gaze towards Lin Chao, his eyes reflecting a profound mix of apprehension and greed. "Brother Chong, where did you acquire these?" Chapter 12. The deal. Lin Chao lifted the untouched cup of tea before him to his lips, but refrained from drinking. He merely skimmed the surface with the cup lid. "Goods from overseas," he replied flatly, devoid of any emotional inflection. "My nephew is working for some foreigners in Africa. Things are chaotic there, and he brought back some items, hoping to exchange them for some cash to settle down." Africa, foreigners, chaos. Having navigated the black market for many years, he instinctively understood the implications. Stolen, smuggled, bloodstained. Such goods are paradoxically the cleanest and the dirtiest. Clean because their origins are obscured, making them untraceable. Dirty because those capable of extracting goods from such places are unlikely to have untainted hands. Fei Jiao's Adam's apple bobbed, and a semblance of a smile creased his chubby face. "Brother Chong, your nephew has quite the audacity and connections," he ventured cautiously. "However, such goods can be quite hazardous to handle. The quality is commendable, but without documentation, they are difficult to sell." He picked up the magnifying glass again, feigning scrutiny over a few more diamonds. "Look at this one. It has impurities. This one's cut is flawed, leading to loss. If I were to hold on to these, who knows how long it would take to cleanse them for cash." Lin Chao remained silent, merely observing Fei Jiao's performance. Behind him, Chun Bao and Li Shanjiji stood like silent sentinels, their cold glares dropping the temperature in the mahjong parlor corner. Fei Jiao was acutely aware of the stakes. Those emerging from the Daquan gang were all desperate men. This Lin Chao was once one of the 5 tigers of the Weihai gang, with blood on his hands. It would be unwise to clash over this shipment. Yet the temptation of easy profit gnawed at him. "Brother Chong, we are all reasonable men." Fei Jiao set aside the magnifying glass, finally revealing his intentions. "The market price for this batch is around 300,000. However, the risks I am taking are substantial. I can offer you this amount." He extended 3 plump fingers. 30%, 90,000. Lin Chao finally moved, placing his teacup down, the bottom clinking against the table. A sound that made Fei Jiao's heart race. Without a word, Lin Chao deliberately began to collect the diamonds, one by one, into a coarse cloth bag. His movements were slow and steady. With each diamond he picked up, Fei Jiu's eyelids twitched. Was he about to walk away from the deal? Beads of sweat formed on Fei Jiu's forehead. He realized that Lin Jiqiang had no intention of negotiating. That calm demeanor was itself a resolute stance. Accept or walk away. If Lin Jiqiang exited with the goods today, the black market in Outao would buzz with rumors, and Fei Jiu would find himself unable to swallow even the Daquan's goods. He was even more afraid that Lin Jiqiang would sell the goods to his rivals. The loss would extend beyond mere finances. Brother Chong, wait. As Lin Jiqiang reached for the last and largest diamond, Fei Jiu could no longer contain himself. 40%. He gritted his teeth, feeling as if he were slicing off his own flesh. No more than that. Brother Chong, I am risking my neck to assist you. Lin Jiqiang's hand paused in midair. He glanced at Fei Jiu and replied coolly, I want cash, and I want it now. Fei Jiu's face twitched before he nodded heavily. All right. He dragged a heavy safe from beneath the table, unlocking it with a key and combination, extracting stacks of banknotes wrapped in brown paper. Here are 120,000. You can count it. Lin Jiqiang accepted the money, gave it a cursory glance, and tucked it away. Then he stood up. There will be more goods to come. With that, he turned and walked away, followed closely by Chun Bao and Li Shanjiji. The trio left without a moment's pause, swiftly vanishing into the shadows of the alley. Fei Jiu glanced at the door, his face a canvas of fluctuating colors. Wiping the cold sweat from his brow, he picked up a diamond from the table. Holding it up to the light, his greed once again overshadowing his fear. Under the night sky above Lingdingyang, the sea breeze was frigid. The engine of the Chao Yu roared deeply, propelling the vessel at full speed towards Hong Kong. Silence enveloped the cabin, the atmosphere stifling. It was not until the familiar lights of Lujia village appeared on the horizon that everyone unconsciously exhaled a sigh of relief. The boat glided silently to the dock. Lin Chao was the first to leap off the ship, securing the mooring rope tightly to a wooden post. As Lin Jiqiang disembarked, the tension etched on his face finally eased somewhat. Return to the house. Inside the humble abode, the dim oil lamp flickered back to life. Lin Jiqiang tossed a heavy canvas bag onto the table and unzipped it, revealing neatly stacked banknotes. 120,000. He looked at his son, realizing they had lost more than half. Lin Chao's gaze fell upon the money. 120,000. In 1973 Hong Kong. This was a sum that could drive any ordinary person to madness. With this money, his factory could survive. That's enough. Lin Chao's voice was hoarse. He understood the magnitude of the risk his father had taken. This was not merely a transaction. It was a gamble with their lives. From the pile of money, Lin Jiqiang counted out 8,000 and pushed it aside. A bow, Shanji, de 2, Shouho. You 4, 2,000 each. Take it to support your families. The group standing at the doorway, Chun Bao and the others, held their breath. 2,000. They risked their lives in perilous smuggling operations, barely earning a few hundred. Brother Chong, this is too much. Chun Bao's lips quivered. Take it. Lin Jiqiang's tone brooked no argument. There will be plenty more life and death situations to come. Chun Bao ceased his protest, nodding solemnly. He and his companions bowed deeply to Lin Jiqiang and Lin Chao before collecting the money and retreating. Inside the room, only the father and son remained. Lin Jiqiang took out another 2,000 from the pile and placed it beside him. I will keep 1,000. The 8,000 is for the brothers' settlement fees. The remaining 2,000 is for fuel and maintenance for the boat. Money is needed in every aspect. He pushed the remaining 110,000 towards Lin Chao. You take this back. Lin Jiqiang regarded his son, his gaze complex. He could not comprehend the blueprints his son drew nor the intricate machinery he discussed. Yet, he understood his son's determination. Lin Chao did not hesitate, collecting the 110,000 into his bag. Outside, hurried footsteps approached. It was Li Shanjiji. Brother Chong. He had forgotten to knock. Bursting through the door with an air of urgency. Zhao Xiang from the Yuehai gang is here again. He is at the village entrance. Saying Longgu has an urgent shipment for you to attend to immediately. The tension that Lin Jiqiang had just managed to release tightened once more. He rose, his expression hardening back to its usual cold demeanor. Understood. Lin Jiqiang stepped out of the house, his figure quickly swallowed by the night. Chapter 13. Black eats black. The Chao Yu set sail once more. At the Yuehai gang's dock, Zhao Xiang had long been waiting. He directed several underlings to load heavy wooden crates onto the deck of the Chao Yu. Brother Chong. Longa mentioned that this shipment consists of high-end audio equipment from the east, quite valuable. The predetermined coordinates for the delivery overseas will be met by a cargo ship named Haiyuan. Zhao Xiang cautiously handed over a nautical chart while carefully observing Lin Jiqiang's expression. Brother Long mentioned that this time the hardship fee would amount to this figure. He extended 5 fingers, 5,000 yuan. For a standard cargo transport, this sum was exorbitant. Lin Jiqiang accepted the chart without casting a glance at Zhao Xiang, merely responding with a faint hum. The more money offered, the deeper the waters ran. He understood this clearly. Long Xiaodian certainly did not intend to genuinely look after him. This trip was likely not a simple task. As the Chaoyu departed from the dock, the engine emitted a low growl in the night, swiftly leaving behind the myriad lights of Hong Kong. In the cockpit, Lin Jiqiang took the helm personally. Chen Bao and Li Shanjiao silently inspected their weapons, inserting fully loaded magazines into their chest pouches. They steeled themselves. Lin Jiqiang's voice cut through the engine's roar with unusual clarity, signaling that the money would not be easily obtained tonight. He cast a sidelong glance at the dark sea behind them, where an inconspicuous fishing boat trailed at a distance. It was Long Xiaoyan's watchful eye. Chen Bao followed his gaze and whispered, "Brother Chong, is that Long Xiaoyan's man?" "Yes," Lin Jiqiang replied, retracting his gaze. "Let us focus on our performance." 2 hours later, the Chaoyu arrived at the coordinates marked on the chart. Ahead loomed an old cargo ship exceeding 1,000 tons. Its hull emblazoned with the name Haiyuan in large letters. Lin Jiqiang raised a powerful binocular, his brow furrowing instantly. Something felt amiss. Shadows flitted across the deck of the Haiyuan. There were at least 20 to 30 individuals, feigning to organize ropes while smoking and chatting. Such a large number was unnecessary for a routine cargo transfer. "Brother Chong, there's a problem," Li Shanjiao noted the anomaly. "These people don't seem like crew members, they resemble." He hesitated, but everyone understood. They looked more like thugs preparing for a fight. The radio crackled with the Haiyuan's call, a hoarse voice emanating, "Chaoyu? Come closer for an inspection." Lin Jiqiang picked up the transmitter, his tone calm. "The waves are high. The ship is unstable. You send a small boat over, and we can settle the transaction." This was a customary rule of the underworld, a probing statement. Silence reigned on the other end of the radio. That moment of stillness served as the most telling response. In the next instant, all pretense aboard the Haiyuan was stripped away. A dozen men wielding rifles suddenly rose from their hiding spots, their dark muzzles trained on the Chaoyu. Simultaneously, 4 already idled speedboats roared to life, encircling from 4 directions, effectively cutting off all escape routes for the Chaoyu. A boisterous shout rang out from a loudspeaker. "Leave the ship and the cargo. Get off, and we might spare your lives." It was a trap, a thoroughly prepared ambush. The adversaries sought not only the cargo, but also the ship itself. Chen Bao and Li Shanjiao's faces turned ashen. With the firepower from 4 speedboats and the larger vessel, their ship felt like a lamb surrounded by a pack of wolves. Utterly helpless. However, Lin Jiqiang exhibited no signs of panic. His gaze was as cold as the depths of the ocean at that moment. He had been waiting for it. "Lights on," he bellowed. Instantaneously, several high-powered searchlights at the bow and stern of the Chaoyu illuminated the surrounding sea like daylight, blinding the gunmen on the speedboats. As the adversaries were disoriented by the blinding light, Lin Jiqiang issued a second command, his voice booming like thunder. "A bow. Flip the table." "Understood." Chen Bao's eyes ignited with a bloodthirsty fervor. He lunged for an inconspicuous hatch at the center of the deck, grasped the pull ring, and with all his might, he yanked it upward. With a resounding clang accompanied by the hiss of releasing hydraulic rods, the disguised hatch was thrown open. A ferocious steel beast slowly emerged from beneath the deck. It was a well-maintained, gleaming 53 type heavy machine gun, exuding an aura of violent beauty. Its black body and thick barrel were connected to a golden ammunition belt, radiating a sense of death under the searchlight's glare. From the time the hatch was opened to the machine gun's positioning, the entire process took less than 10 seconds. All enemies stood dumbfounded, their brains unable to process the surreal scene unfolding before them. How could a fishing boat conceal a heavy machine gun? That thought became their final one. "Fire on the left boat," Lin Jiqiang roared. Chen Bao had already leaped onto the machine gun seat, gripping the butterfly-shaped trigger tightly. With a toothy grin, he aimed at the nearest speedboat and fiercely pulled the trigger. The sound of gunfire erupted, tearing through the air. A steel storm composed of 12 7mm bullets surged forth, carrying the scorching scent of death, crossing a 100-meter distance and striking the speedboat with brutal force. The wooden vessel shattered as if struck by a giant's iron fist. In the face of the terrifying barrage, it was instantly torn to pieces. Splinters, flesh, and remnants of firearms exploded into a cloud of blood mist. Moments later, the speedboat's fuel tank ignited. Boom! A massive fireball shot into the sky, painting half the night red. The screams never had a chance to escape. The entire world fell into a deathly silence. Everyone was left stunned by the hellish spectacle. The remaining gunmen on the other 3 speedboats stared blankly at the blazing flames, their weapons feeling as heavy as lead in their hands. There's a heavy machine gun. A voice broke the silence, filled with despair. Panic spread like wildfire. Run! Quick! Run! They frantically turned their boats, desperate to flee this sea of death. Want to escape? Lin Chao eyes turned icy. He slammed the helm. Shanjiao die too. Free fire. The Chaoyu's powerful engines roared to life at that moment, executing a perfect tailspin as it charged toward the speedboats. Li Shanjiao and the other 2 comrades, using the ship's steel plating as cover, unleashed a torrent of gunfire. Meanwhile, Chun Bao's heavy machine gun became the Reaper's scythe. He grinned and pressed the trigger once more. Another barrage of deadly fire swept through the air. The stern of one speedboat was obliterated into a mass of debris. The helmsman and steering wheel reduced to a mist of blood. The out-of-control speedboat spun wildly on the surface of the sea. On another speedboat, the gunmen had completely lost their composure, discarding their weapons and leaping into the icy waters, crying out in terror. Lin Chao felt no pity. A bow, clean them up. Chun Bao licked his cracked lips and aimed at the struggling figures in the water. The battle from start to finish lasted less than 5 minutes. The sea was littered with the wreckage of 3 speedboats and countless bodies, the pungent scent of blood mingling with gunpowder, inducing nausea. The Haiyuan cargo ship had long since turned tail in terror, attempting to escape into the darkness at the sound of the first gunfire. Lin Chao made no attempt to pursue. His objective had already been achieved. In the distance, aboard a small fishing boat belonging to the Yuehai gang, 2 lookout lackeys dropped their binoculars to the ground. Their mouths agape, faces as pale as parchment, their bodies trembled like leaves in an autumn wind. What had they witnessed? A massacre, a one-sided slaughter where a fishing boat had decimated 4 armed speedboats and a cargo ship. The hidden heavy machine gun, the terrifying firepower, the lightning-fast response. The merciless killing. One of the lackeys shakily picked up the radio, his lips quivering for what felt like an eternity before managing to utter a trembling voice into the microphone. Brother Long, something big has happened. Chapter 14, Alliance Jianghu, Yao Ma Ti. In the depths of the Yuehai gang's stronghold, within a chamber adorned with an incense-laden statue of Guangong, a young henchman clad in a white shirt stood before a military-grade radio, his face ashen, his hand trembling like a leaf as he grasped the microphone. Brother Long, something grave has occurred. The quivering voice emanating from the device pierced the stillness of the room. Seated in a grand chair, Long Xiaodian furrowed his brow, momentarily halting the rhythmic motion of 2 polished walnuts in his hands. Calm yourself and elaborate, he commanded, his tone grave. The Haiyuan has been completely annihilated. The henchman's voice was laced with despair. There are heavy machine guns aboard the Chaonhua. Once they opened fire, the speedboats were obliterated. The mention of heavy machine guns made Long Xiaoyan's pupils constrict sharply. The other loyal subordinates in the room collectively gasped, their expressions a mixture of disbelief. What fishing vessel conceals heavy machine guns? The henchman continued, voice trembling with fear. All 4 speedboats were lost in mere minutes, along with their crews. The Haiyuan turned tail and fled. Brother Chong didn't even pursue. Long Xiaodian rose to his full height, his imposing figure casting a shadow over the Guangong statue on the table. The muscles in his face twitched slightly, his expression contorted with displeasure. His intention in sending Lin Chao had been to probe the capabilities of the Haiyuan's crew, as well as to gauge the remaining prowess of Lin Chao. A once mighty tiger, now seemingly past his prime. He had envisioned numerous outcomes. Lin Chao suffering losses, or perhaps retreating after a stalemate. However, he had never anticipated a one-sided massacre of this magnitude. He had grossly underestimated Lin Chao. No, he had underestimated that vessel. A ship capable of concealing heavy machine guns would hardly content itself with the role of a mere captain. His prior calculations had been somewhat naive. Brother Long, Lin Chao, murmured a subordinate nearby, his gaze rife with apprehension. Prepare the vehicle, Long Xiaodian interjected, slamming the walnuts onto the table. Head to the dock. I shall personally receive Brother Chang. He resolved that with such a formidable adversary, mere suppression and probing would only sow the seeds of enmity. The only viable strategy was to first win him over, then gradually plot their course. The Chaoyue slowly approached the Weihai gang's dock. Its hull still marked with dark red stains and the char of gunfire. Lin Jiqiang disembarked with Chun Bao and others. Their attire devoid of blood, yet emanating a palpable aura of lethal intent. Zhao Xiang observed Lin Jiqiang, his lips quivering, unable to utter a single pleasantry. At that moment, several black sedans sped onto the scene, halting at the dock. Long Xiaotian, flanked by a cadre of loyalists, strode over briskly. Brother Chang, you've endured much, he greeted, a smile gracing his lips, though it appeared forced. He glanced at the Chaoyue, his gaze lingering for a moment upon its battle scars before returning to Lin Jiqiang. It is my brothers who owe you an apology. We had not anticipated such unscrupulous buyers would embroil you in danger. Lin Jiqiang met his gaze with calm eyes. Nothing was lost aboard the ship. I do not require the payment. After stating this, he prepared to depart. Wait. Long Xiaotian raised his voice. Brother Chang, you are slapping my face. He signaled to his men, and one promptly approached bearing a leather suitcase. 5,000 as agreed, not a penny less. Long Xiaotian opened the suitcase to reveal neatly stacked bills. The additional 5,000 is a token of our apology for the trouble caused. Let this matter regarding the cargo be forgotten. A total of 10,000. Double the previously agreed amount. Chun Bao and Li Shan's chicken both inhaled sharply, their breaths heavy with surprise. Lin Jiqiang scrutinized Long Xiaotian in silence for several moments. He recognized this was not a mere apology. It was an attempt to win him over, a silencing bribe. Long Xiaotian was using money to signify that past tests were now erased, and moving forward, they would be allies. Very well, Lin Jiqiang nodded, accepting without further protest. Chun Bao stepped forward to retrieve the suitcase. For future endeavors of this nature, Brother Long, feel free to summon us at any time. With that, Lin Jiqiang turned and departed, not casting another glance back. As they vanished from sight, a subordinate beside Long Xiaotian quietly remarked, Brother Long, this man is too proud. He possesses the means to be proud, Long Xiaotian replied, narrowing his eyes as he gazed at the quietly moored Chaoyue, his expression intense. In Lujia village, within a humble dwelling, the flickering oil lamp illuminated the faces of a father and son. Lin Jiqiang tossed the 10,000 yuan onto the table, his voice gravelly. This is from Long Xiaotian. He recounted the events that transpired at sea in vivid detail. Lin Chao listened intently, possessing a deeper understanding of the implications than his father. The battle the previous night had unveiled the armament of the Chaoyue, thereby establishing their authority. They had proclaimed their rise in the most violent manner, which would inevitably attract more formidable foes. Those intimidated by the Chaoyue's display of strength were mere trifles. True predators, upon scenting blood, would only become more invigorated. This time, our adversaries wield long rifles and speedboats, Lin Chao interjected, breaking the silence. We caught them off guard, but next time we encounter other foes, they will undoubtedly be prepared. Indeed, Lin Jiqiang nodded, his expression grave. Lin Chao's gaze fell upon his father's calloused hands. How much longer could these hands steer the vessel? How many more triggers could they pull? Father, we need to be faster and stronger. Lin Chao's eyes held a depth that Lin Jiqiang could not fathom. The speed of the vessel must be enhanced. If we cannot fight back, we must at least be able to flee. Our weaponry must also be upgraded. There is a saying, there are 1,000 days of being a thief, but not 1,000 days of guarding against thieves. Lin Jiqiang sighed heavily, pushing the 10,000 yuan across the table towards Lin Chao. Handle these matters as you see fit. As night deepened and silence enveloped the world, Lin Chao retreated to his room, locking the door behind him. He closed his eyes, and in an instant, the world around him faded into color and soundlessness. The next moment, he found himself back in the research institute. He logged onto the local large language model platform deployed by the institute. He had arrived at the height of the language model era before his time travel. The institute had also adapted to the trend by deploying a fully operational language model on their servers, usable without internet connectivity within the local area network. Lin Chao swiftly input commands. 1970 to 1990, marine diesel engines, turbocharging technology, fluid dynamics, ship design schemes. A torrent of data cascaded across the screen. Academic papers, blueprints, and engine models far surpassing the capabilities of the era manifested before him. Chapter 15. The new engine. Lin Chao's gaze darted across the screen, filtering out overly advanced technologies that the industrial foundation of the 1970s could not sustain. Ultimately, his finger halted upon a blueprint for a classic marine engine, finalized in the early 1980s. It was not the most powerful, yet it was the most suitable. Compact in structure, robust in power, relatively simple to maintain. Its fuel efficiency eclipsed all contemporary counterparts. Most importantly, many of its core components could be fabricated using the equipment available at the Institute. This is it, Lin Chao resolved without hesitation, promptly retrieving the complete blueprints and all technical specifications while also selecting a propeller tailored to this engine. The propeller's blades featured intricate curved surfaces and variable pitch designs, maximizing the conversion of the engine's power into the vessel's thrust. After completing these tasks, he proceeded to the materials smelting and precision manufacturing zone. After setting the program, the most advanced industrial machine in the Institute silently powered up. Metal powder melted at extreme temperatures, layering and shaping at a speed imperceptible to the naked eye. This process, which would take factories months in the outside world, was accomplished here in mere hours. 3 days later, as Lin Chao piloted the Chaoyue back to the Lujia village dock, Lin Chao awaited his arrival. "Father, do not anchor at the usual spot," Lin Chao calmly stated as they approached the shipyard's dock. Lin Chao was momentarily taken aback. The shipyard had only just finished leveling the foundation and had erected a few rudimentary metal shelters. Even the water and electricity were not fully operational. What purpose would there be in bringing the vessel here? Yet, he refrained from pressing further. Over time, the enigmatic aura surrounding his son had intensified, and he had grown accustomed to not inquiring about the reasons, focusing solely on the outcomes. The colossal hull of the Surpass gently nestled against the newly poured concrete dock within the shipyard for the first time. Lin Chao turned off the engine and jumped ashore, gazing at the nascent construction site before him, a tumult of emotions swirling within him. This place had consumed all their hard-earned money, and it now stood merely as an empty shell. "Ah Chao, he began to inquire, but Lin Chao interrupted him. "Father, follow me." Lin Chao guided him into the largest workshop in the shipyard. The interior was dimly lit, but Lin Chao was immediately captivated by two objects at the center of the room. They were a brand new engine, its sleek lines exuding power. Every screw and joint perfect, resembling a work of art in stark contrast to the crude industrial products of their time. Beside the engine lay a propeller, its blades exhibiting a peculiar curvature, reflecting a sharp brilliance even in the muted light. Lin Chao was momentarily speechless. His throat felt parched, as if it were ablaze. "These are blueprints I drew while at school, arranged through connections to have them constructed," Lin Chao calmly replied, delivering a premeditated explanation. The absurdity of the statement was palpable, yet gazing into Lin Chao's serene eyes, Lin Chao found himself unable to counter with a single word. Indeed, what was so strange about a son capable of crafting artillery from a gas canister, conjuring an engine from thin air? He had relinquished any attempt to comprehend the logic behind this matter. Slowly, he approached and reached out to touch the cold surface of the engine. "You intend to replace this engine?" Lin Chao asked, his voice hoarse. "Yes," Lin Chao affirmed. "The hull of the Surpass is sturdy enough. However, there is room for improvement in the engine's power, and the efficiency of the propeller is too low. With these, our vessel could achieve double the speed." Lin Chao's hand trembled at the thought. Double the speed. In these treacherous waters, speed equated to survival. "All right, let's replace it," Lin Chao said, a hint of excitement creeping in. However, Lin Chao's tone shifted. "But we cannot install it ourselves." He gestured to the empty workshop. "Our shipyard lacks the necessary equipment. The installation and calibration of such a sophisticated engine require precision. Any misalignment could lead to significant issues." The spark of enthusiasm in Lin Chao was suddenly doused with cold water. "Then what shall we do?" Lin Chao's gaze drifted towards the dark coastline to the north. "We must make a trip to Pengcheng. We need to seek out Factory Director Wang from Factory 708. They possess the expertise and equipment." Lin Chao's breath caught. Another trip inland? To find those in the military? He instinctively wanted to object, but the words caught in his throat. He understood that his son's intentions went far beyond merely installing an engine. Lin Chao observed the changing expressions on his father's face, but chose not to elaborate. He was indeed driven by more than just the installation. The complete design blueprints for the engine and propeller served as his second declaration of intent. He sought to obtain stronger armaments. a talisman capable of safeguarding their lives at a critical moment. Gather Bao and the others. Prepare accordingly, Lin Chao commanded steadily. We'll hoist the equipment onto the ship and set sail at dawn. When Chun Bao, Li Shanjia, and the others laid eyes on the engine, they were rendered speechless, encircling the massive machine with curiosity. Changgu, Chaozi, this engine is colossal. It's several times larger than any we've encountered before, Chun Bao exclaimed, unable to contain himself. Lin Jiqiang offered no explanation. He simply directed everyone to assemble scaffolding and lay down rollers. With sheer human effort and the use of a winch, they labored tirelessly to maneuver the several-ton engine and propeller onto the rear deck of the Surpass, covering it securely with heavy canvas. As dawn broke, the first rays of sunlight pierced through the mist above the sea. The bow of the Surpass turned and slowly departed from the dock. Within an hour, the familiar military dock emerged on the horizon, transforming from a mere into a discernible shape. Lin Jiqiang gripped the helm tightly, his palms slick with sweat. The last time they had come, they were prisoners, later becoming guests. This time, however, they were arriving of their own accord. He glanced back at his son, who was calmly observing the approaching coastline, his composure bringing a modicum of reassurance to Lin Jiqiang. As the vessel neared the perimeter, the sentry atop the lookout tower had already spotted them. A sharp whistle pierced the air, signaling them to halt for inspection. Lin Chao stepped to the bow, retrieving the pass that minister he had personally bestowed upon him, raising it high. On the dock, a squad of armed soldiers swiftly assembled, but upon seeing the pass, the leading officer paused in surprise. He quickly relayed information via radio, and soon the dock's barriers were lifted. The Surpass glided in, settling at an unoccupied berth. As the engine fell silent, a figure clad in blue overalls and with graying hair briskly emerged from the workshop, accompanied by several others. It was none other than Wang Jinhua, the director of Factory 708. Comrade Shaolin, Wang Jinhua exclaimed, his face lighting up with astonished warmth upon spotting Lin Chao. What brings you here? Director Wang, Lin Chao replied as he hopped down from the ship, extending his hand with a respectful demeanor. I have a technical matter I wish to consult you and your colleagues about. A technical matter? Wang Jinhua shook his hand, his eyes brimming with curiosity. He assessed Lin Chao and then glanced at the Surpass behind him. Lin Jiqiang followed suit, descending from the ship and offering a polite nod to Wang Jinhua. Well, Lin Chao stated directly, I have designed a new power system, including an engine and accompanying propeller. I've arranged for them to be constructed. But we lack the means for installation and calibration, so I would like to request the assistance of the comrades at Factory 708. As soon as his words left his lips, the air fell silent. Wang Jinhua's smile froze. The technical staff behind him exchanged incredulous glances, their expressions rife with disbelief. You designed a new power system? A young man under 20? Just a university student? Such a notion seemed utterly preposterous. One technician could not help but mutter under his breath. What a joke. Developing a new marine engine? Does he think it's like playing with building blocks? The comment, though uttered softly, resonated clearly in the quiet dock. Lin Jiqiang's face flushed, his fists clenching involuntarily. Yet, Lin Chao's expression remained unchanged. He merely turned and called out to Chun Bao aboard the ship, Bao, remove the canvas. Chun Bao responded, and, along with Shan Ji and others, they swiftly tore away the heavy canvas covering the aft deck. As sunlight illuminated the object beneath the canvas, every breath in the vicinity seemed to halt. A brand new engine lay quietly on the deck, gleaming with metallic brilliance, its intricate piping and structural layout exuding industrial elegance. Wang Jinhua's eyes widened in astonishment. He rushed to the ship's edge, nearly leaning over the railing, fixated on the engine as if it were a rare treasure. The technical staff behind him gathered around, their previous skepticism replaced by sheer astonishment. This. Wang Jinhua's fingers trembled. He turned to Lin Chao, his voice dry. Is this what you designed? Indeed, I drafted the blueprints while at school, and a professor of mine facilitated the manufacturing overseas. Lin Chao calmly reiterated his well-prepared response. Wang Jinhua inhaled sharply. As the head of a leading military factory in the country, his discerning eye immediately recognized that the craftsmanship of this engine surpassed domestic standards, even exceeding the precision of the Western products they had painstakingly imported. He could hardly fathom that such a design had emerged from the hands of this young man. What is its performance? A technical officer asked instinctively. Theoretically, it boasts double the power of the current military engine on board, with with a 30% reduction in fuel consumption. Lin Chao replied nonchalantly. A profound silence enveloped the room. Everyone regarded Lin Chao as if he were a madman. The figures he presented were beyond mere advancement. They signified a revolution. Test it. Wang Jinhua suddenly sat upright, his eyes alight with an almost fervent excitement. Arrange for the hoisting immediately. Notify Minister He. I require an immediate sea test. With his command, the entire Factory 708 sprang into action. The colossal gantry crane slowly made its way to the dock, carefully lifting the engine and precisely installing it into the cabin of the Chaoyu. The propeller was replaced and the power shaft calibrated. The efficiency of Factory 708 was astonishing. In just half a day, the modifications were complete. When He Weihua, upon receiving the news, hurried to the dock, the Chaoyu had undergone a remarkable transformation. Shaolin, what monumental development have you orchestrated this time? He Weihua gazed at Lin Chao, his eyes brimming with anticipation. Lin Chao merely smiled. The proof is in the pudding. Half an hour later, a military patrol boat accompanied the Chaoyu as it set sail for the testing zone. On board the patrol boat, He Weihua, Wang Jinhua, and a dozen core technical experts each held a pair of binoculars. Their expressions tense as they focused on the Chaoyu not far away. Commence. Wang Jinhua issued the order through the intercom. In the cockpit, Lin Jiqiang placed his hand on the throttle lever, his heart racing. Go for it, Lin Chao's voice urged from behind him. Taking a deep breath, Lin Jiqiang slowly pushed the lever forward. The engine emitted a deep, resounding roar, akin to a beast awakening. The Chaoyu's hull suddenly dipped, and then the bow shot up high, surging forward in a terrifying manner. Quick, keep up, the captain of the patrol boat shouted. However, within moments, the Chaoyu had left them far behind. What speed are we achieving? Wang Jinhua shouted anxiously. Report. We have exceeded 30 knots. And we're still accelerating. 35 knots. 40 knots. My goodness. The speed is still climbing. The voice of the speed tester had completely changed in tone. Everyone aboard the patrol boat was rendered speechless. A fishing vessel outpacing a destroyer? How could this be possible? He Weihua's binoculars were fixed on the distant white wake, his hands trembling with excitement. What he saw was not merely a ship. It was a multitude of possibilities, the hope for the future of the Navy. The test lasted for an hour. When the Chaoyu returned, the patrol boat trailed behind like a clumsy apprentice. In the command room, the atmosphere was tense yet electrifying. All the technical experts gathered around the freshly printed test data, their faces radiating fervor and disbelief. The maximum speed reached 42 knots, with a sustained cruising speed of 38 knots. The fuel efficiency surpasses our best engine by 40%. The levels of vibration and noise are nothing short of a masterpiece. Wang Jinhua held the thin data report, feeling its weight as if it were 1,000 pounds. He looked up at Lin Chao, who sat opposite Minister He. His gaze filled with profound reverence. Minister He regarded Lin Chao, speaking after a long pause. Comrade Shaolin, you have indeed bestowed upon us an extraordinary surprise. Lin Chao stood, retrieving a thick roll of blueprints from his bag and presenting it with both hands. Minister He, Director Wang. This engine and propeller were originally designed for our nation. Here are all the design blueprints and technical documentation. Today, I present them to the country. This declaration shocked everyone in the command room. Such invaluable design documents were handed over so readily. He Weihua suddenly rose, trembling as he accepted the heavy roll of blueprints. He gazed at Lin Chao, his lips moving without a sound. Lin Chao observed the emotional upheaval in the room, knowing the time had come. A hint of bitterness and trepidation crossed his face. Minister, to be frank, my urgency in coming here was not solely for the engine installation. I also seek assistance. He briefly recounted the recent encounter on the high seas, where Lin Jiqiang had been besieged by 4 speedboats and a larger vessel. We narrowly escaped using the heavy machine gun on board. But next time, if the enemy is prepared, we may. He left the sentence hanging. But the implication was clear. The tension in He Weihua's expression returned, his demeanor growing gravely serious. Lin Chao looked at him earnestly. Minister, the situation in Xinjiang is too chaotic. To ensure our safety and to better serve our country, I hope to receive more support. Chapter 17. A fishing vessel armed to the teeth. Upon hearing this, He Weihua's expression darkened instantly. A genius capable of designing such a national treasure was forced to contend with the likes of Xinjiang, armed with only a heavy machine gun. What a bitter irony. It is our oversight. He Weihua's voice was hoarse. Comrade Shaolin, rest assured. The nation will never allow its heroes to shed blood and tears. He abruptly turned to Wang Jinhua, his gaze sharp as a blade. Old Wang, mobilize the best technicians and equipment in the factory. Whatever Comrade Shaolin requires. No matter the cost, fulfill it entirely. Yes. Wang Jinhua stood tall, responding loudly. His gaze toward Lin Chao had transformed completely. He Weihua took a deep breath, redirecting his attention to Lin Chao. Speak, what do you need? All eyes in the command room were fixed upon Lin Chao. The hull of the Chao Yu is robust, but not sufficient. Lin Chao calmly articulated his well-considered demands. I require a layer of special steel plating to be added to the interior walls of the cockpit, engine compartment, and machine gun design positions, enough to withstand close-range rifle fire. Wang Jinhua nodded immediately. No problem. We have the best armor steel. I need to add 2 more concealed machine gun positions. Lin Chao extended 2 fingers, indicating a crossfire setup at the bow and the original position, plus 1 at the stern. The hatches for the concealed compartments should be interconnected with a single button mechanism for deployment. Gasps of astonishment echoed among the technical officers. 3 heavy machine guns on a fishing vessel? What was the purpose? Were they preparing for a maritime landing operation? In terms of firepower, Lin Chao did not pause, continuing. In addition to the ship-mounted weapons, we also require some equipment for individual operation. He paused, scanning the faces of everyone present. 20 Type 5 to 6 automatic rifles, with 10,000 rounds of ammunition. 2 boxes of Type 6 to 7 grenades. And, if possible, I would like 2 Type 6 to 9 rocket launchers, along with the corresponding armor-piercing rounds. The command room fell into a profound silence. Even He Weihua's breath seemed to halt. Rocket launchers? This was no longer about self-defense. This is the endeavor to assemble a small military force. A technical officer's lips trembled, instinctively wanting to voice that this was against protocol. But his words were silenced by a stern glare from He Weihua. Lin Jiqiang felt a shiver run down his spine. His son intended to transform the Chao Yu into a mobile arsenal on the sea. The waters of Xiangjiang were far deeper than we imagined. Facing He Weihua's gaze, Lin Chao spoke earnestly. I require these not to incite trouble, but to possess the capability to retaliate when others push us to the brink, to ensure our survival. More importantly, it is to safeguard ourselves so that we may continue to contribute to our nation. He Weihua fell silent. He regarded Lin Chao's clear and resolute eyes, then glanced down at the heavy blueprints in his hands. After a long pause, he exhaled deeply. Very well. The word resonated firmly. I promise you. Lao Wang. Handle this personally. Ensure the weapons are loaded onto the ship within 2 hours. He made a decisive choice. Compared to the value represented by these blueprints, a few guns and rocket launchers were trivial, as long as this young man could be protected, allowing him to continue creating value for the country. What was it to equip him with an entire battalion's worth of gear? Furthermore, He Weihua added, this dock will serve as your supply station from now on. You are always welcome to return. Should you require anything, do not hesitate to ask. In the following 2 days, the entire 708 factory operated at high speed for the Chao Yu. The finest welders, the most precise machine tools, and the most exceptional engineers all focused their efforts on this vessel. Heavy special steel plates were meticulously cut and seamlessly welded into the ship's interior. The bow was transformed with 2 brand-new machine gun platforms cleverly concealed beneath the deck, while a gun platform was added to the stern. With the press of a button, 3 dark heavy machine guns could simultaneously rise from below deck, transforming the fishing vessel into a fortress of war. During this time, the factory's technicians encountered numerous perplexing aspects while studying the engine blueprints. Some designs completely contradicted their established understanding. Comrade Shaolin, why is the curvature of this turbine blade like this? According to our calculations, it will increase enormous centrifugal stress. And this fuel injection system, its pressure is far too high for our current materials to withstand. Faced with these top experts' inquiries, Lin Chao remained unflustered. He simply approached the blueprints and picked up a pen. This curvature is designed to modify the airflow into a laminar state at ultra-high speeds, creating controllable microvortices to maximize intake efficiency. The stress issue can be resolved by altering the crystalline structure of the blade's root material. As for the injection pressure, it does require special materials. However, its advantage is that it achieves a secondary atomization of the fuel, enhancing combustion efficiency by over 15%. In just a few words, he elucidated each design challenge clearly. The engineers listened, enraptured. The last vestige of doubt dissipated in their minds. Undoubtedly, These blueprints were the handiwork of the young man before them. 2 days later, as the sun set, casting a golden hue over the sea, the transformed Chao Yu quietly docked at the pier. Its exterior still resembled an ordinary fishing boat. But only those who truly understood it knew of the formidable steel beast concealed beneath its harmless facade. Lin Chao, Chen Bao, Li Shanjia, and others gazed at the weapons being loaded onto the ship, their limbs trembling. Automatic rifles, grenades, and even rocket launchers. These were things they had never dared to dream of touching in their lifetimes. Brother Chong, is this a fishing boat or a warship? Li Shanjia stammered, his voice quaking. Lin Chao did not respond, merely inspecting a brand-new rocket launcher with a complex expression. He watched his son, who was saying farewell to He Weihua and Wang Jinhua not far away, his heart a tumult of emotions. This vessel was no longer the Chao Yu of the past. It was a warship clad in the guise of a fishing boat. Take care. Be sure to prioritize safety, He Weihua urged, gripping Lin Chao's hand tightly. Rest assured, Minister. Lin Chao nodded. Should I need anything, I will return. The Chao Yu slowly departed the dock. The bow turned towards the sunset, cutting through the waves in the direction of Xiangjiang. The ship accelerated, and the coastal line of the mainland quickly faded into the night. As the vessel sailed into the deep night, still several dozen nautical miles from Xiangjiang, a few rapidly moving lights appeared in the distance. Brother Chong, there's a boat ahead. Called the lookout. Lin Chao raised a high-powered military telescope to observe the direction. Under the cloak of night, a medium-sized fishing boat was fleeing in panic, its hull bearing a familiar insignia that flashed by. It was a vessel of the Weihai gang. Behind it trailed 3 modified black speedboats, resembling 3 ravenous hounds, forming a pincer shape to close in. The speedboats erupted with gunfire. The barrage was clearly audible even from a distance. Those on the Weihai gang's boat futilely retaliated with handguns, but they were quickly suppressed by the overwhelming firepower, one after another falling into the sea. The speedboats seemed unhurried to sink the vessel. They reveled in the thrill of the hunt, systematically picking off every living target on the deck. A brutal massacre unfolded before their eyes. Chen Bao and Li Shanjia also grabbed the binoculars, their faces paling. It's the Weihai gang's boat. Damn, who are these ruthless bastards? Li Shanjia cursed. Lin Chao lowered the telescope, his expression cold. He glanced at his son beside him. Lin Chao was also peering through the binoculars, calmly observing the hellish scene, his face devoid of any emotion. Soon, the gunfire on the Weihai gang's boat ceased. The 3 speedboats approached slowly, several gunmen leaping onto the deck to finish off the bodies lying in pools of blood. Before long, they began transferring items from the ship's hold to the speedboats. Minutes later, a massive fireball erupted on the distant sea, illuminating the night sky with a ghastly white light. The Weihai gang's vessel was obliterated, disintegrating and slowly sinking into the cold, dark depths of the ocean. Chapter 18. A change in the tide. The colossal fireball consumed the night, the searing white light piercing everyone's eyes. The thunderous roar of the explosion reverberated across several nautical miles, striking the hull of the Chao Yu with a tremor that resonated through the deck. Damn it! Li Shanjia nearly dropped the telescope on the deck, his face ashen, lips trembling as he uttered a curse. How brutal! They blasted both the ship and the crew to smithereens. Chen Bao's expression mirrored his shock. He set down the binoculars, his eyes betraying an unmistakable horror. The opposing forces' methods were clean and efficient, leaving no survivors, ultimately sinking the ship without a trace. This was not an act of vengeance. It was an extermination. Lin Chao silently watched the remnants of burning debris scattered across the sea. He had traversed this ocean for half his life, witnessing countless instances of betrayal and violence, yet he had never encountered such merciless and efficient slaughter. He instinctively glanced at his son behind him. Lin Chao still held the binoculars, his expression impassive, as if watching a silent film that bore no relevance to him. After completing their task, the 3 black speedboats showed no signs of delay, extinguishing their searchlights and merging into the night, speeding away in the opposite direction of Xiangjiang. Chaozi. Lin Chang's throat felt dry as he spoke. Turn around, extinguish all non-essential lights, and depart slowly, Lin Chao instructed, his voice as cold as ice. Chen Bao and Li Shanjia exchanged glances, both seeing the lingering fear in each other's eyes. Had they encountered those 3 speedboats at sea today, before upgrading the Chao Yu, their fate would likely not have been much better than that of the Weihai gang. What is the origin of these ruffians? Li Shan's chicken couldn't help but murmur. Surely they can't be as ruthless as the Overlord? The last group was chased away by Brother Chong. Logically, they shouldn't dare to return. They are not the Overlord. Lin Chao dismissed this speculation. The Overlord seeks wealth, aiming to make a quick buck and depart. This group is here to claim lives. His gaze swept across the crowd. The smuggling business in Hong Kong is about to undergo a transformation. The Yuehai gang has stumbled upon a formidable challenge this time. Lin Jiqiang nodded, comprehending his son's implication. To so effortlessly encircle the Yuehai gang's vessel at sea, the opposing force must possess significant strength and background. The recent atmosphere is tense, Lin Chao continued. We shall refrain from venturing out to sea for the time being. All smuggling operations are to be halted. He looked towards his father and Chun Bao among others. The crew aboard is still too scant. Relying solely on us is insufficient to manage such a large ship or utilize the equipment effectively. Father, Uncle Bao, Uncle Ji. Upon your return, please enlist some trustworthy young brothers. They should be youthful, capable fighters with discretion. We are now affluent and equipped. It is time to support our own. Lin Jiqiang nodded gravely, aware that his son spoke the truth. This vessel has become a colossal vortex. To avoid being drawn in, one must possess adequate strength. The Chaoyu silently altered its course under the cover of night. The atmosphere aboard was suffocatingly tense. Upon returning to the Lujia village dock, dawn had yet to break. Lin Jiqiang, without a moment's respite, accompanied Chun Bao, Li Shan's chicken, and 2 other old comrades directly into the night. I'm going to find some people. He left behind this brief statement, his figure quickly disappearing down the village path. Lin Chao observed his father's departing silhouette, silently returning home. After breakfast, Lin Chao boarded a bus bound for Hong Kong Island alone. His destination was the second-hand equipment market in Kwun Tong. This place serves as the scrapyard for Hong Kong's entire industrial sector and a paradise for treasure seekers. The shipyard's foundation had been laid, yet it remained an empty shell. To genuinely possess the ability for independent repairs and modifications, one must have their own equipment. Lathes, milling machines, drilling machines, grinding machines. Much is still lacking. Reliance on the Research Institute's equipment cannot be perpetual, as future tasks will require external assistance. The market was bustling with activity. The air thick with the acrid scent of mingled oil and rust. Lin Chao navigated through the massive iron relics, his gaze focused and discerning. Unlike other buyers who merely considered the machine's age and brand, Lin Chao's hand glided over the cold guide rails, assessing the extent of wear. At times, he would lean closer to the gearbox, turning the spindle to listen for any unusual sounds within. The knowledge residing in Lin Chao's mind enabled him to easily perceive the inner workings of these machines. Ultimately, he halted before an old horizontal lathe and a vertical milling machine. Both were relics from the 1950s, British in origin, bulky and unattractive, and almost entirely overlooked. Yet Lin Chao's eyes sparkled with excitement. The cast iron bases of these machines were constructed with an abnormal solidity, their stability far surpassing that of the substandard new machines on the market today. If he were to return with them and replace their spindles, motors, and CNC systems with the technology from the Research Institute, their machining precision would instantaneously outstrip that of the most advanced Swiss machine tools of this era. Boss, what price for these 2? Lin Chao located the drowsy shopkeeper. After a round of haggling, he acquired the 2 pieces of scrap metal at an exceptionally low price and arranged for delivery to Lujia village the following day. By the time he completed all this, evening had descended. Lin Chao returned to the village, wearied yet satisfied. The newly hired workers at the shipyard were tidying the site, everything appearing orderly. Just as he intended to enter his home, a figure emerged from the shadows at the door, blocking his path. It was Zhao Xiang. His complexion was pale, his eyes bloodshot, radiating a sense of unease. Ah Chao. Zhao Xiang's voice was hoarse. Lin Chao halted, regarding him coolly. What is it? Brother Long has urgent matters and wishes to invite you to the hall, Zhao Xiang said, taking a deep breath, his tone laced with urgency. Lin Chao scrutinized Zhao Xiang, then turned and walked towards the house. Follow me. Zhao Xiang hesitated but quickly trailed behind. Upon opening the door, a wave of fragrant steam from cooked dishes enveloped him. Inside, Lin Jiqiang sat at the head of an 8 immortals table, surrounded by 6 unfamiliar young men. All were in their 20s, lean, with short hair, and their gazes bore a wild intensity. Dressed simply in vests and trousers, their exposed arms showcased well-defined muscles, revealing old scars and tattoos. These individuals had been meticulously selected by Lin Chao from the recent wave of young escapees from Kowloon Walled City. Upon seeing Lin Chao and Zhao Xiang, the laughter and chatter in the room abruptly ceased. 6 pairs of sharp eyes fixed intently on Zhao Xiang, devoid of emotion, akin to wolves assessing a wild dog intruding upon their territory. Zhao Xiang's legs weakened at once. Instinctively, he halted at the threshold, unable to step forward. "Old man," Lin Chao called out. Lin Chao lifted his gaze, glancing at the ashen Zhao Xiang, then at his expressionless son, already surmising the situation. He gestured to the 6 young men. "You all go out and familiarize yourselves with the area around the shipyard." "Yes, Brother Chong." The 6 rose promptly, exiting in silence. Only the 3 of them remained in the room. Lin Chao poured himself a glass of strong liquor, sipping it slowly. He turned to Zhao Xiang, his voice low. "Speak. What does Long Xiaodian want with me?" Chapter 19. The Circle of Discussion Master. Zhao Xiang's posture bent even lower. "Brother Long wishes to invite you to the hall for a serious discussion." "Serious discussion?" Lin Chao scoffed. His fleet had just been annihilated at sea. The ships blown to smithereens. Now they remember this old man. Zhao Xiang's body trembled violently, his complexion draining of color. He stared at Lin Chao in horror, mouth opening and closing without sound. This matter was under strict orders of silence from Brother Long. Only core members are aware. How did Lin Chao find out? And so clearly? Lin Chao ceased looking at him, his gaze shifting to his son. Lin Chao nodded slightly. "We must go. They witnessed the massacre, and this matter is inextricably linked to them. Rather than passively awaiting trouble, it is better to proactively ascertain how deep this water runs and who stirs the storm. Knowledge of oneself and one's adversary is crucial for survival. Return and inform Long Xiaodian." Lin Chao stood, retrieving the coat hanging on the wall. "I will arrive in an hour." Zhao Xiang felt as if a weight had been lifted, scrambling out in haste. Once he departed, Lin Chao looked to Lin Chao. "Ah Chao, you stay here and oversee the shipyard." "Father," Lin Chao shook his head, his tone resolute. "You go alone. I cannot rest easy." He paused before continuing. "Bring Uncle Bao, Uncle Ji, and the 6 new brothers, and take the equipment as well." Lin Chang's pupils constricted. He understood his son's intent. This was not merely a meeting. It was an assertion of authority. "All right," he replied with a single word. An hour later, 2 slightly worn pickup trucks departed Lujia village silently. Lin Chao sat in the passenger seat of the lead vehicle, eyes closed in contemplation. Chen Bao drove, while Li Shan's chicken and 3 other new brothers occupied the rear seat, each with a long canvas bag at their feet. Lin Chao rode in the second vehicle, accompanied by 3 equally taciturn young men. The convoy did not head directly to the Yuehai gang's hall in Yaomati, but instead stopped in a secluded alley nearby. Lin Chao, accompanied by Chen Bao and Li Shanjiji, alighted from the vehicle, instructing the others to remain inside. The headquarters of the Yuehai gang was located on the 2nd floor of an old tenement building, with a long-closed traditional medicine shop below. At that moment, 4 underlings from the Yuehai gang stood at the staircase, their expressions tense, as though bracing for a fierce confrontation. Upon spotting Lin Chao and his companions, the lead henchman quickly forced a smile and approached. "Brother Chong, Brother Long is waiting for you upstairs." Lin Chao nodded slightly and made his way up the stairs. As he pushed open the door, a heavy cloud of smoke mingled with the scent of cheap tea assailed his senses, causing a stinging sensation in his nostrils. The modest hall was packed with people. In addition to the core members of the Yuehai gang, there were 7 or 8 outsiders present, each with piercing gazes that betrayed their dangerous backgrounds. Almost every notable figure from the vast circles of Xiangjiang was gathered here today. The Hunan gang's Over the Mountain Tiger, the Guangxi gang's 8-Faced Buddha, and the Fujin gang's Smiling Shark were among them. These leaders, typically engrossed in their own affairs and sometimes at odds with one another, now found themselves seated in the same room, their faces etched with a grave seriousness that could almost draw water. The atmosphere in the room was stiflingly oppressive. Long Xiaodian occupied a grand chair at the center, and the once arrogant demeanor had vanished, replaced by an unmistakable weariness and gloom. Upon noticing Lin Chang's entrance, he managed to rise with difficulty. "Brother Chong, you've arrived." Lin Chang surveyed the room and took a seat on an empty chair beside Long Xiaodian. Chen Bao and Li Shanjiji flanked him like 2 iron towers. Once everyone was present, Long Xiaodian waved his hand, signaling some of the henchmen to leave, and personally closed the door. "Brothers of the Great Circle," Long Xiaoyan's voice was raspy. I have called you all here today to discuss a pressing matter. The winds of change are blowing over Xinjiang. He paused, seemingly gathering his thoughts. The night before last, 3 of my vessels were hijacked on the open sea. A silence enveloped the room as everyone turned their gaze towards him, awaiting further details. 12 brothers, and those ships are lost. Long Xiaoyan's fist struck the table with a heavy thud, his eyes reddening. According to one fortunate survivor, the assailants had 3 large speedboats, their firepower surpassing even that of the police's water patrol. My men were taken out like targets before they could even make a splash. Who is responsible for this? Long Xiaoyan's voice was heavy with accusation. It is none other than the Chaozhou gang. Bohao Wu Tiahao. The mere mention of Wu Tiahao's name caused several gang leaders' faces to darken further. This name had recently become synonymous with death and fear throughout the Great Circle. That madman! Exclaimed the over-the-mountain tiger from the Hunan gang, slamming his palm on the table, causing the teacups to rattle. What does he intend to do? Does he truly believe he can dominate the entire Great Circle? What he desires, Long Xiaodian replied with a bitter smile, is to unify the entire Great Circle, to turn us all into his lapdogs, helping him sell his wares. A few days ago, a gunfight erupted on Lianqing's turf, resulting in the deaths of over a dozen hoodlums. The police investigated for days and found nothing. I tell you, it was Bohao behind it all. He is using local gangs as practice. He has the backing of Chief Inspector Liu Lei, which is why he feels emboldened to act so recklessly. The name Liu Lei loomed over everyone like a heavy burden. If Bohao was a mad dog, then Liu Lei was the master pulling the leash. Long Xiaodian scanned the room, his voice tinged with desperation. Brothers, those who are not here today are either too frightened to show their faces or have already aligned themselves with Bohao. The Yuehai gang is the largest faction in the Great Circle, aside from the Chaozhou gang. If I, Long Xiaodian, surrender, Bohao will not spare me either. The principle of mutual survival is clear, is it not? I firmly declare that the Yuehai gang will fight Bohao to the end. I hope each of you will stand with me, united as one. Otherwise, we shall be devoured, one by one. Long Xiaoyan's resolve was palpable. Yet the other leaders remained silent, their gazes averted. It was evident that while Long Xiaodian spoke of fighting to the bitter end, he was in fact pleading for assistance. Yet no one wished to be the first to step forward. To confront Bohao? To challenge Liu Lei? That would be courting death. The atmosphere had grown so tense, it was almost suffocating. Observing the reactions of those around him, Long Xiaodian felt his heart sink. He understood that he could not rely on these cunning old foxes. Ultimately, his gaze fell upon Lin Chao, who had remained silent since entering. All eyes in the room shifted to this former elder of the Great Circle. Brother Chong, Long Xiaoyan's voice turned solemn. You are our esteemed elder. Had you not withdrawn at the critical moment, the position of the Great Circle's leader would not have been claimed by anyone else. What is your perspective on today's situation? Chapter 20. A storm approaches. All eyes were now fixed upon Lin Chao. The atmosphere in the room became thick with tension, stifling. The once dominant gang leaders fell silent, awaiting the stance of this esteemed elder of the Great Circle. Long Xiaoyan's eyes reflected a flicker of hope. Lin Chao lifted the untouched cup of tea before him, gently stirring the leaves floating atop, yet he did not drink. He lifted his gaze, scanning Long Xiaodian, and then each person present. Under everyone's watchful eyes, he finally spoke. Brother Long, I have long since exited the Great Circle, washed my hands of its affairs. I am now merely a fisherman, navigating the waters to make a living. His statement held truth. When he withdrew from the Great Circle for Lin Chao, he had indeed held a ceremony to signify his departure. At that time, the Great Circle was in its prime, and no one dared to trouble Lin Chao. Thus, the grievances and conflicts of the Great Circle no longer concerned me. Having said this, Lin Chao set down his teacup and rose from his seat. What do you mean by that? An underling beside Long Xiaotian suddenly stood, glaring furiously. The tension in the room escalated instantly, with several leaders instinctively reaching for their waists. Lin Chao did not acknowledge the brash henchman. Instead, he adjusted his coat and turned towards the door. Chen Bao and Li Shanjiji followed closely behind, their hands resting naturally at their sides. Yet, it was evident to all that their fingers were poised on the handles of their canvas bags. An invisible aura of menace emanated from them. Long Xiaoyan's complexion turned ashen. He watched Lin Jiqiang's resolute figure retreat, then glanced at the 2 silent, yet dangerous companions beside him. He realized that what they were carrying was not fishing rods. Should a confrontation arise, blood would surely flow in this headquarters. Let him go, Long Xiaotian gritted out through clenched teeth, his voice hoarse. The standing underling reluctantly returned to his seat. Lin Chao, without a backward glance, pushed open the door and stepped out, his footsteps echoing down the staircase. His departure felt like the last flicker of hope extinguished within the room. The previously shared camaraderie dissipated in an instant. The over-the-mountain tiger from the Hunan gang suddenly slammed his thigh, rising to his feet. Ahem, I have some goods to inspect, Brother Long. Let us deliberate on this matter further. Without waiting for a response from Long Xiaotian, he hastily departed with his entourage. Once the first left, the second followed. I have pressing matters back home, Brother Long. My mother's birthday is coming up. I'll take my leave. In the blink of an eye, the once crowded hall was left with only Long Xiaotian and his core subordinates. An oppressive silence enveloped the room. Long Xiaotian surveyed the scattered cigarette butts and the empty chairs, his body trembling with rage and humiliation. Very well, he murmured with a low laugh, his chuckle growing louder until it erupted into a maniacal cackle. You wish to flee? Do you think you can escape? If I, Long Xiaotian, cannot live well, then neither shall any of you. He suddenly swept all the tea sets off the table, the sound of ceramic shattering piercing and harsh. His eyes, flushed with rage, sparkled with a mad and malicious glint. In the darkness of the night, 2 pickup trucks silently returned to Lujia village. The village was eerily quiet, with only a few lamps glowing in the distant shipyard. No one inquired about the outcome of the negotiations, yet everyone understood everything from Lin Chang's cold, hard face. From the following day onwards, the Transcendence vessel never set sail again. It lay still at the dock, like a beast lying in wait. Lin Chang showed no signs of relaxation. He devoted all his time to training the 6 new recruits. At dawn, he would drag them from their beds to run with weights around the village. By day, the deck of the Transcendence transformed into a training ground. The disassembly, assembly, maintenance, and shooting stances of weapons. Lin Chang personally demonstrated each action, insisting they repeat it hundreds of times until muscle memory was formed. Chen Bao and Li Shanjia acted as teaching assistants, correcting every minute detail. The first rule was that firearms must never be pointed at one's own comrades. This was the most crucial rule. If you don't change the magazine faster, your life is at stake. This group of desperados from Kowloon Walled City was not to be trifled with. They inherently possessed a fierce tenacity. Now, equipped with genuine weaponry and systematic training, their wildness was gradually being honed into a lethal aura. Meanwhile, on the freshly flattened ground at the shipyard, Lin Chao was equally busy. The 2 old machines he had purchased as treasures had been dismantled completely. Lin Chao laid out blueprints before a makeshift workbench. He oscillated between calculations and tool work, modifying the disassembled parts. Lin Chao had also hired a dozen idle laborers from the village to begin excavating the foundation by the dock and erecting a reinforced structure. Uncle Wong, dig down another half-meter for the foundation. I need to pour concrete. Use 16mm rebar and bind it tightly. The villagers were unaware of the intentions of this usually refined university student, but seeing the daily wages they earned, everyone worked with great enthusiasm. Lujia village seemed to have transformed into a secluded utopia. The storms of the outside world appeared unable to penetrate this remote fishing village. However, the impending sense of turmoil grew more palpable with each passing day. The first to encounter trouble was the Yuehai gang. At the Yaomati Pier, a cargo ship they had docked suddenly caught fire in the dead of night. By the time the fire brigade arrived, only a charred shell remained, slowly sinking beneath the waves. The next day in Kuntong, 2 lackeys from the Yuehai gang, collecting protection fees, were brutally stabbed to death by 4 masked assailants in broad daylight. By the time the police arrived, the perpetrators had long vanished. Soon after, a series of grim tidings followed. Smuggling fleets went missing at sea, warehouses hidden in the outskirts were set ablaze, and core members of the gang were ambushed with gunfire. The entire Yuehai gang was thrown into a state of panic, with fear permeating the air. Yet, the turmoil did not cease there. Within days, a ship belonging to the Hunan gang, laden with contraband, vanished without a trace on its way to Macau. The influence of the Guangxi gang at the dock was uprooted overnight. A leader of the Fujian gang and his entire family were murdered. In an instant, the underworld of Hong Kong was shrouded in a blood-red cloud. The attacks were erratic, brutal, and left no survivors. Everyone believed it was the notorious Wu Tiahao executing a purge, and the atmosphere of dread spread like an epidemic among the various gangs. The entire underworld descended into chaos. Chapter 21. The ambush in the dead of night. The sea breeze, laden with a salty dampness, swept across the deck of the Transcendence. The 6 newly recruited young men had just concluded a grueling day of high-intensity training, sprawled across the deck in exhaustion. Their bones ached, yet no one complained. The youngest among them, Ahui, was tasked with night watch during the latter half of the night, leaning against the ship's railing. He closed his eyes in feigned slumber while his ears remained attuned to the monotonous rhythm of the waves lapping against the hull. Suddenly, an incongruous sound mingled with the ocean's murmur, piercing through to his ears. It was a very low, rumbling engine noise, faint and emanating from the stern of the ship. Ahui's eyes snapped open, instantly alert. He quietly rose, bending down to rouse his sleeping comrades. "Wake up," he whispered, his voice low and tinged with tension. "We have a situation." The other 5 sprang to their feet almost in unison. They crouched on the deck, peering into the darkness at the stern, following the direction of Ahui's finger. The moonlight was obscured by clouds, casting the sea into a pitch-black void. However, with the faint shimmer of the water, they discerned a distant silhouette. It was a modified speedboat, its lights extinguished, stealthily approaching the stern of the Transcendence. Several shadowy figures were visible aboard. Their intentions were clearly malicious. The attackers on the speedboat evidently assumed the vessel was unoccupied or that they could not be detected. As they drew closer, their confidence grew brazen. When the speedboat was a mere dozen meters away, one figure stood up, taking a glass bottle from a companion. He pulled out a lighter and ignited the cloth wick. A burst of orange flame flared in the night, illuminating his twisted face, filled with excitement. It was a Molotov cocktail filled with gasoline. He grinned malevolently, raising his arm high, preparing to hurl the incendiary device onto the rear deck of the Transcendence. Once ignited, their mission for the night would be accomplished. However, he never got the chance to throw it. The moment the flame ignited, his position was completely revealed. Bang! A sharp gunshot shattered the stillness of the night. Ahui, who had been aiming with a rifle in that direction, pulled the trigger without hesitation. The bullet tore through the air, striking the assailant's raised arm. A piercing scream erupted. The Molotov cocktail slipped from his grasp, plummeting onto the deck of the speedboat instead of the Transcendence. The glass shattered instantly, gasoline splattered, ignited by the burning wick. Boom! A massive fireball erupted on the speedboat, engulfing half of the vessel in a blaze, illuminating the sea like daylight. Chaos ensued aboard the speedboat as the attackers, now ablaze, shrieked in agony, rolling on the deck in a desperate attempt to extinguish the flames. "Open fire!" One of Ahui's comrades bellowed, suppressing his rage. Others dashed to the cabin, immediately pressing the concealed red button. The remaining 3 rushed to the machine gun positions. With a grating metallic sound, 3 platforms suddenly ascended from the deck of the Transcendence. 3 dark, menacing heavy machine guns emerged, resembling ferocious steel beasts bearing their fangs. Rat-a-tat-tat. The heavy machine gun at the stern fired first. Its barrel spat furious tongues of flame, the heated belt of ammunition tracing a lethal line across the night sky. A torrential barrage of bullets rained down upon the burning speedboat. Poo-poo-poo. The sounds of bullets tearing through metal and flesh resounded sharply amidst the screams. The attackers aboard the speedboat were utterly taken aback. They had never anticipated that there would be machine guns at the stern. Their prior intelligence only indicated armament at the bow. This was not a counterattack. It was a massacre. The overwhelming firepower left them no opportunity to retaliate. They could only howl in despair amidst the flames and gunfire. The driver of the speedboat, still somewhat aware, abruptly turned the vessel around, flooring the throttle in a desperate attempt to flee the deadly zone. However, the machine gunners aboard the Transcendence remained relentless, refusing to let them escape. Bullets pursued the speedboat's wake, carving white splashes upon the surface of the sea. 2 assailants were struck and flung backward, their bodies tumbling into the frigid waters like discarded sacks. The fleeing speedboat trailed plumes of smoke and flames, disappearing into the distant night in a state of disarray. The deafening gunfire had already awakened the entire Lujia village. Lights flickered on one after another, and the air was filled with barking dogs and startled shouts, creating a cacophony of chaos. Lin Chao was the first to burst out of his house, clad only in a vest, yet gripping a loaded Type 56 rifle. Chen Bao and Li Shanja followed closely, accompanied by several comrades, all armed and radiating an aura of menace as they charged towards the dock. It was the men of Bumpy Howl. Li Shangja shouted as he ran, his eyes bloodshot. This was the first thought that surged through their minds. By the time they reached the dock, the battle had concluded. The Chao Yu lay quietly anchored, its 6 young crew members gripping their weapons, vigilantly scanning their surroundings. Each face a blend of fear and exhilaration. Lin Jiqiang leapt aboard, his eyes swiftly surveying the scene. The air was thick with the acrid scent of gunpowder and charred flesh. He glanced towards the distant flicker of flames upon the sea and then at his unscathed comrades. The tension in his heart easing slightly. Changgu, Ahui approached, his voice trembling. We drove them off. Lin Jiqiang firmly patted his shoulder, words unspoken. But his approving gaze conveyed everything. He moved to the ship's edge, lifting a searchlight to illuminate the area where the gunfire had erupted. The beam pierced the darkness, sweeping across the water's surface. Soon, he spotted a body floating atop the waves. Bring the boat closer, Lin Jiqiang commanded in a low voice. The vessel approached slowly, Ahui using a hook to drag the still bleeding corpse to the side. The face of the corpse was frozen in terror, a gaping hole in its chest. Lin Jiqiang shone the searchlight upon that unblinking visage. The moment he recognized the face, his pupils constricted to pinpricks. He was familiar with this face, a small-time henchman of Long Xiaodian from the Weihai gang, nicknamed Sango. Chapter 22, Strengthening Defense. Lin Jiqiang's mind buzzed. This name, this face, was all too familiar. Back when he roamed the underworld, Sango was merely a sycophant trailing behind Long Go. Little did he expect that after more than a decade, he would become the vanguard wielding the knife against him. Chun Bao and Li Shangja stepped closer, and upon recognizing the corpse, their faces turned ashen. It's that damned Weihai gang. Li Shangja ground his teeth. What does Long Xiaodian want to do? Lin Jiqiang remained silent. The light in his eyes extinguished as he turned off the searchlight. The body, along with that unblinking face, sank back into the darkness. Throw it back into the sea, he said coldly. Ahui released the hook, and the corpse splashed as it disappeared into the icy waters. In the Lin family's ancestral home, the lights shone brightly, yet the atmosphere was oppressively heavy, like a block of solid iron. Lin Jiqiang sat in the main seat of the hall, silent, his fingers rhythmically tapping the table. Chun Bao, Li Shangja, and several other old brothers surrounded him, each face shadowed by clouds of unease. The 6 newcomers had tended to their minor injuries and now stood straight against the wall, silent as statues. The brief yet perilous skirmish had thoroughly stripped away their restlessness, replacing it with a genuine aura of menace. Damn it! Chun Bao finally could no longer contain himself, slamming his palm down on the table, causing the teacups to rattle. That son of a dog, Long Xiaodian. Back when you, Changgu, were commanding the scene, he wasn't even worthy to carry your shoes. Now, with his wings hardened, he dares to bite back at us. Changgu, say something. Li Shangja's eyes were bloodshot. I can't swallow this anger. I'm going to yell ma ti right now to chop that bastard up. Chop him up? Lin Jiqiang finally ceased his rhythmic tapping. He raised his gaze, coldly scanning each outraged brother present. And then what? His voice was soft, yet silenced the room instantly. If we chop up Long Xiaodian, will we then become the next target for Bumpy Hao? Or will the police see us as typical gangsters fighting and throw us all into Chaiwan prison? Long Xiaodian is a mad dog now, a mad dog driven to a dead end by Bumpy Hao. Why would he provoke us? It's not that he has gone mad. He wants to drag us down with him. Lin Jiqiang stood, pacing the room. Do you really believe that the recent events in the underworld, missing ships, burnt warehouses, and slain leaders, are all Bumpy Hao's doing? I tell you, Long Xiaodian is undoubtedly stirring the pot, framing us. He seeks to muddy the waters until no one can distinguish friend from foe, until everyone is embroiled in battle. Only then does he have a chance to survive amidst the chaos. If we rush out now, we would be playing right into his hands, becoming fodder in everyone's eyes. His words fell like a bucket of cold water, extinguishing the flames of anger in the hearts of the crowd. Indeed, they had only thought of revenge, failing to perceive the insidious intentions behind it. Li Shangja's fists clenched and unclenched, ultimately falling dejectedly. So we just let it go? He asked, unwilling to accept it. Let it go? Lin Jiqiang scoffed. I have never suffered such a great loss in my life. He halted, turning his gaze to a quiet brother. Datu, you know many people. Tomorrow at dawn, go out and spread some rumors. Say that last night some fools attempted to set fire to our Lujia village, but they were met with gunfire and their ship was sunk. The deceased is Sango, a minion of Long Gu from the Weihai gang. Remember, don't be too explicit. Let those old foxes guess for themselves. The man known as the Two nodded, a spark of understanding in his eyes. I understand, Changgu. This approach is far more ruthless than simply storming in. This strategy aimed to thoroughly nail Long Xiaotian to the pillar of infamy. In times of internal strife and external threats, turning against one's own was a taboo that could ruin a person's reputation in the underworld. Once everything was arranged, Lin Chao felt a wave of apprehension. He glanced at the 6 young men. Had they not been sleeping on the boat tonight? Had his son not insisted on installing those 3 machine guns? The consequences were unthinkable. Just then, Lin Chao emerged from the back room. He had heard the gunfire and commotion outside, but Lin Chao had previously instructed him not to come out. Now, seeing the room full of people and his father's face, which was etched with anger and fatigue, he understood the general situation. When he learned from his father that the assailants were from the Weihai gang, a chilling dread surged through him. Just a hair's breadth away. Just that little bit. The shipyard, the Chao Yu, his father, these things he cherished most could have turned to ashes tonight. He had always thought that with guns and men, he possessed the ability to protect himself. But the events of tonight struck him hard, delivering a stinging slap to his face. This era was far more chaotic than he had imagined. The security of his stronghold resembled a leaky fishing net, riddled with holes. He needed to enhance the level of defense. Dad, I'm a bit tired. I'm going back to sleep, Lin Chao said nonchalantly. Lin Chao waved his hand without a second thought. Lin Chao returned to his room, locked the door, and his consciousness plunged into his mind. In the next moment, he found himself standing in the hall of the research institute. Without a moment's hesitation, Lin Chao quickly made his way to the supply storage area. He knew precisely what he needed. A number of high-powered wireless routers are sufficient to cover the entirety of Legiacan and its surrounding maritime areas. Several efficient flexible solar panels, accompanied by compact batteries, provide independent energy. Most crucially, there are over 20 outdoor surveillance cameras equipped with night vision and thermal imaging capabilities, powered by solar energy. He meticulously cataloged and packed these devices before quietly returning to his room. The night deepened. Lin Chao donned a black outfit, vanishing into the darkness like a specter. The tallest banyan tree on the village's rear mountain, the rooftop at the village's entrance, and the unremarkable power pole by the dock. He adeptly installed the equipment at each strategic location, much like a seasoned operative. The router's signal was configured to a specially encrypted frequency, and the solar panels and batteries were cleverly concealed. Each camera was positioned at critical nodes. By the time he completed this task, the first light of dawn was breaking on the horizon. Lin Chao returned to his room and retrieved a tablet computer. He powered it on and connected to the local network he had established. Soon, a series of clear real-time images appeared on the screen. The village entrance, the dock, the rear mountain, the shipyard. For the first time, Legiacan was enveloped in a comprehensive surveillance network with no blind spots. He even crafted a simple alert program that would automatically trigger an alarm if unfamiliar vehicles, vessels, or suspicious individuals lingered in the monitored area for an extended period. Observing the flowing images on the screen, Lin Chao's taut nerves finally began to relax somewhat. Yet he understood that this was merely the first step. Technology could only provide a warning. True security ultimately relied on strength. Meanwhile, in Yuma District, the atmosphere in the Guangdong Sea Gang's hall was so oppressive that it felt suffocating. Long Xiaotian sat in a grand chair with a grim expression, gripping a bill so tightly that his knuckles turned white. Just moments ago, one of his dance halls had been inspected by the police, who ordered it to cease operations for rectification. To facilitate the reopening of the establishment, he had to spend a substantial amount of money to smooth over relations. He was acutely aware that the mastermind behind this was likely the Chaozhou gang's Inspector Lu Lei. However, he felt utterly powerless. Long Xiaotian's connections with the police paled in comparison to those of Lu Lei. At this moment, he felt like an insect ensnared in a spider's web. The more he struggled, the tighter the bonds became. Just as he was consumed by frustration, a trusted subordinate rushed in, panic-stricken and disheveled. He leaned close to Long Xiaotian's ear, voice trembling as he uttered a few words. "Brother Long, the operation in Legiacan has failed." The color drained from Long Xiaotian's face in an instant. He sprang to his feet, nearly stumbling in shock. A teacup was violently hurled to the ground, shattering into pieces. Incompetent fools. Long Xiaotian's chest heaved with rage, his eyes bloodshot, resembling a beast trapped in a cage. The subordinate who had narrowly escaped from the sea was soaked, trembling on the floor. The operation had failed. The elite cadre sent to set fire to the Chao Yu not only failed to destroy it, but was also mowed down by gunfire from the ship's crew. The loss of his men was a blatant warning. What infuriated Long Xiaotian the most was the news of his men's deaths, which, along with the failed attack on Lejiakin, spread throughout the entire circle overnight. Now everyone knew that Long Xiaotian had stabbed his own people in the back. He felt like the laughingstock of the underworld. That damned old fool, Lin Chao. Long Xiaotian's heart brimmed with hatred. He was cornered by Bo Hao and had to seek refuge among the old-timers, only to be publicly rejected by Lin Chao, which led to the alliance's collapse. He attempted to muddy the waters and frame others, but found that the old foxes were reluctant to engage with the Chaozhou gang. Day by day, his territory was being eroded, and his subordinates were filled with trepidation. Long Xiaotian had not dared to leave this hall for nearly a month. His plan to attack the Chao Yu was his last desperate gambit. Lin Jiqiang's ship, armed with heavy machine guns, was undoubtedly backed by significant power. Only by stirring the waters thoroughly and attracting someone capable of confronting Bo, how could he hope to survive? Yet he had miscalculated. Long Xiaotian's error was not in underestimating Lin Jiqiang's connections, but rather in underestimating his strength. The ship had not just one machine gun, there were more. This was no fishing vessel, it was akin to a warship. The more he pondered, the more fear gripped him, a fear governed by an unknown force. He seized the ashtray on the table and smashed it to the floor once again. Lin Jiqiang, do you think you can hide? Do you truly believe you can escape? His eyes glinted with a frenzied light, plunging him into a state of deranged obsession. If you will not let me live in peace, then let us all perish together. Simultaneously, deep within Kowloon-walled city, in an extraordinarily spacious room, the scent of sandalwood wafted gently. Bo Hao, also known as Wu Tiehao, reclined on an ample sofa, eyes closed, listening to his subordinate's report. His legs were carelessly draped over the coffee table, swaying gently with his body. Boss, the Guangdong Sea Gang has recently lost 2 venues, and the docks business has come to a near standstill. Long Xiaotian is now like a turtle hiding its head. The Hunan Gang's Guishan Tiger had also become much more subdued since losing his ship. The territory had been seized by their men. Our people now control 60% of the waterways in Xiangjiang, and we have taken over 70% of the venues in the larger circle. The report was filled with excitement. As one of the 4 major drug trafficking families in Xiangjiang, the Chaozhou gang was the only outsider. Wu Tiehao's ambitions extended beyond mere stability. He aimed to consolidate all the major forces in the circle and ascend to the throne of Xiangjiang's foremost drug lord. He envisioned a market for white powder that would heed only his command. Bo Hao emitted a slight grunt from his nasal passages, keeping his eyes closed. Everything was unfolding according to his plan. At that moment, another subordinate hastily entered, respectfully leaning close to his ear. Boss, we have discovered that the Guangdong Sea Gang possesses a significant shipyard in Lejiakin. It is managed by an old fellow named Lin Jiqiang, who is rumored to be one of the founding members of the Guangdong Sea Gang. Bo Hao's eyelids twitched. A shipyard? He slowly opened his eyes, a glimmer of shrewdness flashing in his seemingly murky gaze. For smugglers, ships are their legs. A shipyard is the lifeblood that enables these legs to run faster and steadier. Wu Tiehao's current standing was a result of his superior understanding of this principle. He possessed the best ships and the best captains in Xiangjiang. He glanced at the reporting subordinate. Long Xiaotian was currently in a dire situation. He should be too preoccupied to manage this location. The subordinate nodded in agreement. After a moment of contemplation, Bo Hao lightly tapped his fingers on the armrest of the sofa. Shall we send someone to take it down directly? No. That would create too much noise and attract unnecessary trouble. He pondered for a moment, allowing a faint smirk to emerge. Send someone to scout the area first. He spoke calmly. Let us ascertain the situation there. The subordinate understood and promptly exited, with Inspector Liu Lei as his trump card. All the police in Xiangjiang were nothing more than hunting dogs at Wu Tiehao's disposal. At the Lejiakin shipyard, the roar of machinery echoed incessantly in the newly constructed workshop. Lin Chao stood before a completely modified horizontal lathe, wearing protective goggles and focused intently. His hands deftly operated the machine. As the sharp cutter swiftly glided across the spinning metal rod, carving out smooth and precise arcs. The air was thick with the scorching scent of metal. These 2 antiquated machines, salvaged from a heap of scrap, had undergone a remarkable transformation through his application of advanced technology, resulting in a complete overhaul of their core components and system upgrades. Their precision in processing was enough to render any modern factory envious. His current objective was to harness these two super machines to fabricate more intricate and precise equipment for the shipyard. Just as he immersed himself in the thrill of creation, a subtle vibration emanated from his tablet in his pocket. An alarm. Lin Chao's movements came to an abrupt halt, his gaze sharpening. He discreetly powered down the machines, removed his gloves, and swiftly entered an unoccupied tool room, locking the door behind him. He quickly retrieved the tablet. On the screen, a red alarm box pulsated ominously. He accessed the live surveillance feed, and his pupils contracted sharply. The footage was from a cleverly concealed camera he had positioned by the village entrance. In the frame, several armored vehicles bearing the insignia of the Royal Police slowly came to a stop at a junction approximately 1 kilometer from the village entrance. The doors swung open, and a dozen uniformed officers disembarked, clustering together with binoculars, gesturing towards the direction of the village. Their intentions were painfully clear. A chill crept up Lin Chao's spine. He exited the factory with a calm demeanor, betraying no signs of alarm. "Old Bean," he exclaimed as he dashed into the training deck. Lin Jiqiang and Chun Bao were supervising the new recruits in empty gun aiming drills. Upon hearing Lin Chao's voice, everyone froze. "The police are here, just at the village entrance. They seem to be coming for us," Lin Chao spoke rapidly. Lin Jiqiang's expression darkened instantly. "The revenge from Long Xiaotian has come so swiftly?" Li Shanjie cursed, instinctively reaching for the rifle nearby. "It's not Long Xiaotian. He doesn't have the capability," Lin Jiqiang quickly deduced, realizing it was the infamous Ba Hao. The mere mention of his name seemed to freeze the air on the deck. "Dad, you must take Uncle Bao and the others onto the ship immediately. Leave at once through the waterway from the back mountain. Do not return," Lin Chao commanded, his tone brooking no argument. "And you?" Lin Jiqiang grasped his arm tightly. "I will stay. They are here to investigate the gang, and I am a student of Xiongda. They cannot touch me." Lin Chao met his father's gaze. "You leave, and I will manage." Lin Jiqiang stared intently at his son, finding no trace of panic in those calm eyes. He understood his son was correct. They and this ship were the primary targets. "All right." Lin Jiqiang released his grip and turned to Chun Bao and the others, barking orders. "Everyone, aboard the ship. Retrieve the anchor and prepare to depart." At the command, everyone sprang into action. Lin Chao, meanwhile, hurried towards the rear of the shipyard, to a small warehouse designated for storing weapons. He pushed the door open to find several large wooden crates neatly stacked, containing rifles, grenades, and even 2 rocket launchers from the last haul from Factory 708. If these items were discovered, they would all spend the rest of their lives in Chaiwan prison. Chapter 24. Ba Hao strikes again, locking the door behind him. Lin Chao surveyed the lethal arsenal. He delved deep into his consciousness, connecting with the Research Institute's space. In an instant, the heavy crates, along with all their contents, vanished without a trace as if they had never existed. After completing this task, Lin Chao exhaled in relief and quickly exited the tool room, making his way to his uncle Lu Yaoming's home. When it came to dealing with official matters, his uncle Lu had far more experience. "Uncle," Lin Chao pushed the door open. Lu Yaoming, wearing reading glasses and engrossed in the newspaper, was startled. "What is the rush?" "The police are here, at the village entrance," Lin Chao replied succinctly. Lu Yaoming dropped the newspaper, his expression shifting. Yet, being a village leader for decades, he quickly regained his composure. "Do not panic," he said, rising to his feet. "When soldiers come, we shall counter. When water rises, we shall dam it. Our Lu family village is a legitimate fishing village. We fear no shadows." He approached a corner and discreetly retrieved a thick envelope from a cabinet, slipping it into his pocket. "Where are your father and the others?" "They have already set sail." "Good." Lu Yaoming nodded. "Follow me. Remember, you are merely a college student assisting at the shipyard, knowing nothing." As they reached the entrance of the shipyard, the police vehicles had already lined up, blocking the dock's entrance. A dozen officers, batons in hand, approached with serious expressions. The lead officer, Sha Zhan, his face a mass of flesh, scanned the shipyard. "Who is in charge here?" "Sir, I am the village chief, Lu Yaoming," he greeted, beaming with a smile. "I was unaware of your esteemed visit. What brings you here?" "Less chatter," Sha Zhan interrupted impatiently. "We received reports stating that this place is a gang stronghold, harboring arms and drugs. We are here to conduct a search." "A search?" Lu Yaoming feigned surprise, quickly adopting a look of grievance. "Sir, you must see clearly. We are merely a small workshop repairing fishing gear for the villagers, scraping by. He gestured to the dilapidated surroundings. What could we possibly hide here? Shajan snorted in disbelief. Search. He waved his hand, and the officers dispersed, storming into the factory and adjacent rooms. They ransacked the place, turning it upside down, leaving chaos in their wake. But their findings were met with profound disappointment. Inside the factory, aside from the two ancient machines teetering on the brink of disrepair, there were only ordinary tools like wrenches and hammers. The workers' quarters contained nothing more than simple bedding and basic necessities. They even searched the tool room Lin Chao had recently cleared, finding it completely bare, devoid of any trace. Nothing found here. Neither here. Each returning officer reported the same disheartening outcome. Shajan's expression grew increasingly grim. Lu Yaoming, who had been by his side, seized the moment to discreetly approach, slipping the thick envelope into Shajan's hand. Sir, in this sweltering heat, my brothers have worked hard. This small token is to treat them to a cup of tea. Shajan pinched the envelope, the tension in his face slackening slightly. He surveyed the small factory with its few dilapidated machines and scant workers, his suspicion beginning to wane. Is this all the staff you have? Yes, sir, Lu Yaoming replied, feigning concern. Fishing is a tough business nowadays. The young people have all gone out to seek work, leaving only the elderly and the frail. There is no gang here. Shajan nodded, half convinced. It appeared the tip-off had been erroneous, or perhaps the suspects had fled in advance. Continuing the search would yield no further results. Clearing his throat, he signaled his subordinates. Fall back. The police, having arrived swiftly, departed just as quickly. As the police cars vanished at the village entrance, Lu Yaoming let out a long sigh of relief, his back soaked with cold sweat. In Kowloon City, Bahao listened to the report relayed from his subordinates at the police station. Nothing was found. He reclined on the sofa, absent-mindedly cleaning his ear with his pinky, his tone indifferent. Yes, Boss Hao. They reported it was merely a small repair shop with very basic equipment and few workers, not resembling a problematic establishment. Bahao scoffed. It's not surprising they found nothing. I am a master of this game and know 1,000 ways to outsmart a police search. However, the officer's description diminished his regard for the place significantly. It was small and rudimentary. It appears to be an ordinary repair shop, unlikely to amount to much. Perhaps he is overly sensitive. Brother Hao, let us send a few people tonight to set that place ablaze. Bo Hao casually waved his hand, as if instructing someone on an inconsequential matter, wishing to eliminate the eyesore. As dusk fell, Lin Jiqiang returned discreetly to the dock with a group of men. All core members of the Lin family had gathered at the old residence. After listening to Lin Chao and Lu Yaoming recount the events of the day, the expressions on everyone's faces darkened ominously. The ability to summon the police directly must surely originate from the Wahai gang. Chen Bao spoke in a low voice. It is Bo Hao. He has set his sights on us. Damn, that lunatic. Li Shanjia clenched his fists. What does he want? We have done nothing to provoke him. He is not merely seeking something. He aims to eliminate all who defy him. Lin Jiqiang, enveloped in swirling smoke from his cigarette, bore a particularly grave expression. If he could dispatch the police today, he could send assassins tomorrow. Starting tonight, everyone must take turns keeping watch. No one can leave the ship or the shipyard for even a moment. The atmosphere in the room became suffocating. Everyone felt an invisible net tightening around them, akin to fish ensnared, left with no option but to struggle desperately. Lin Chao refrained from joining their discussion. He understood that passive defense would eventually lead to exhaustion. No more waiting. He must find a way to break the deadlock. Returning to his room, Lin Chao locked the door, his consciousness sinking deep within his mind. In the pristine hall of the Research Institute, he felt an unprecedented chill. He swiftly approached the computer, clicked an icon, and activated a dialog box. Taking a deep breath, he typed several keywords into the box. Wu Tiehao, Lu Lei, 1973, outcome. Data streamed rapidly across the screen. Moments later, a detailed dossier appeared before him. Wu Tiehao, also known as Bo Hao, was the leader of the Chaozhou gang, one of the 4 major drug trafficking families in Hong Kong. In October 1973, the Hong Kong government established the Independent Commission Against Corruption, leading to the forced retirement of his primary ally, Chief Inspector Lu Lei, severely crippling his power. In September of the same year, his confidant Chen Qi betrayed him, providing extensive criminal evidence to the nascent commission. In October, Wu Tiehao fled to Taiwan, only to be lured into a trap in March 1974. October. It is now June. Bohao will fall in less than 4 months. Lin Chao's heart raced. If he had not been targeted, simply lying low for these few months would allow the crisis to resolve itself. But now, they were under Bohao's scrutiny. Today it was the police. What about tomorrow? The day after? Could they endure for 4 months? No, they could not. Lin Chao's gaze hardened with resolve. Since the wheels of history had begun to turn, he would not hesitate to give them a vigorous push. He intended to accelerate this process. Exiting the research space, an overwhelming fatigue washed over him. His taut nerves had not relaxed for days. He glanced out at the deep night sky and chose to rest for a while. Even the most meticulous plans require a clear mind to execute. Just as he lay down and closed his eyes, his tablet in his pocket vibrated urgently. An alarm. Lin Chao sprang from the bed, his heart nearly leaping from his chest. He snatched the tablet and activated the screen. The night vision surveillance showed 3 black speedboats. Their lights extinguished, slicing through the waves like arrows, heading straight for the Liu family dock. Chapter 25. Annihilation. Without a moment's hesitation, Lin Chao burst from his room, pounding on the door of the adjacent room. "Father, wake up. Someone is coming." The door swung open instantly, Lin Jiqiang standing there in only a tank top, his eyes devoid of sleepiness. "How many?" 3 boats. The father and son exchanged no further words, racing toward the dock. On board the Chao Yu, 6 newly recruited young men were taking turns keeping watch. Ahui and 2 others leaned against the railing, scanning the pitch-black sea with vigilance. Yet human eyes are no match for machines. In the moonless night, they could see nothing, only hearing the monotonous sound of the waves. The footsteps of Lin Jiqiang and Lin Chao startled them. "Brother Chang, Brother Chao, keep quiet and prepare for battle." Lin Jiqiang's voice was low yet filled with murderous intent. The 6 men froze, instantly understanding the gravity of the situation. The 3 brothers still resting in the cabin were awakened as well. Everyone acted swiftly, without a sound, each grabbing the rifles hidden in the cabin, flipping off the safeties and chambering rounds. The cold metal offered a semblance of security. "Arm yourselves," Lin Jiqiang growled, diving into the cockpit. Creak. The jarring sound of metal grinding echoed from both the bow and stern as 3 ominous Type 54 machine guns slowly rose from beneath the deck, their fearsome barrels aimed at the dark ocean. Boom. Inside the cockpit, Lin Jiqiang turned the key, the engine growling to life, ready to unleash its terrifying power. Everything was prepared. The Chao Yu lay silently at the dock, like a great beast awaiting its prey to fall into the trap. The roar of motors on the surface of the sea grew nearer. The assailants on the 3 speedboats clearly had not anticipated any danger. Maintaining their high speed, they intended to storm the dock, resolving the conflict as swiftly as possible before setting fire and fleeing. Just as they entered the 200-meter range, swish. The military-grade floodlights atop the Chao Yu blazed to life. The blinding beams sliced through the darkness, illuminating the 3 speedboats and the faces of everyone on board, rendering them ghostly pale. "Damn it, it's an ambush." The scar-faced leader, blinded by the intense light, instinctively raised his arm to shield his eyes. They were completely exposed to the light, while their adversary's ship remained shrouded in darkness, obscuring everything. Yet these desperate men did not retreat. "Fire! Shoot them down!" The scar-faced man screeched in a frenzied roar. Fear can sometimes breed a more frenzied violence. Rat-tat-tat. The submachine guns on the speedboats erupted first, bullets spraying wildly towards the Chao Yu, striking the ship's steel hull with a series of metallic clangs, sending tiny sparks flying. They believed that overwhelming firepower would suppress their opponents. However, what they faced was, in fact, a hellish nightmare. In the next instant, fire. Lin Jiqiang pressed the button on the intercom. The command resonated through every corner of the ship. Rat-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat. 3 Type 54 machine guns roared simultaneously. This was not merely gunfire. It was the thunderous roar of a storm of steel tearing through the air. The heated bullet chains traced 3 intersecting lines of death across the night sky, instantly enveloping the foremost speedboat. Puff, 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 puff. The large-caliber bullets shredded through the flimsy hull of the speedboat, ripping apart the bodies on board. Blood mist erupted beneath the harsh white light. Their screams were drowned out before they could even escape their lips, overwhelmed by the barrage of bullets. The foremost speedboat was instantly transformed into a mangled heap of scrap metal, its 7 or 8 occupants reduced to a blurred mass of flesh and blood in a heartbeat. Boom! A bullet struck the fuel tank, igniting a massive fireball that erupted into the sky, sending the speedboat and its shattered remains soaring. This hellish scene left the occupants of the two trailing speedboats utterly stunned. The madness and savagery on their faces were swiftly replaced by sheer terror. Machine guns. Not just one, but three. What the hell kind of fishing boat is this? It's a warship. Retreat. Quick, retreat. The scar-faced man, struck by panic, let out a high-pitched scream. The remaining two speedboats hastily turned their bows, desperately accelerating in an attempt to flee this sea of death. Thinking of escaping? Lin Chau's voice was as cold as ice. The anchor of the Transcendence was swiftly raised, and the engine unleashed its full power. The massive vessel shuddered violently as it surged after the fleeing boats. The slaughter had only just begun. The speed of the Transcendence exceeded their wildest imaginations, rapidly closing the distance between them. The heavy machine gunners on board calmly adjusted their angles, fixating on their fleeing targets. Rat-a-tat-tat. The flames of gunfire erupted once again. Bullets chased the tail of one speedboat, churning the sea into white, frothy splashes. The driver of the speedboat frantically maneuvered, attempting to evade the onslaught. Yet, against the crossfire of three machine guns, all efforts were in vain. A volley of bullets struck the stern of the speedboat, propelling the driver backward. Crashing against the side like a broken sack, his body mangled. The out-of-control speedboat spun on the surface, quickly met with another barrage from the Transcendence, which obliterated it entirely. Only the last speedboat remained, racing desperately across the inky waters. The individuals aboard were utterly broken, discarding their weapons and kneeling on the deck, seemingly in prayer. Yet, neither Lin Chao nor Lin Chao exhibited a shred of mercy. To show compassion to the enemy was to be cruel to oneself. The Transcendence pursued unhurriedly. Akin to a cat playing with a mouse, its searchlight firmly locked onto its prey. Ultimately, amidst a chorus of desperate wails, the three machine guns roared to life, sending the final speedboat to the depths of the sea. Silence reigned. The surface was devoid of anything apart from three slowly sinking wrecks. The air was thick with the acrid smell of gunpowder and a nauseating stench of charred flesh. A profound stillness enveloped the ship. Ahui gripped the scalding machine gun shield tightly, his arms trembling slightly as he struggled to articulate something, but his throat felt parched. Beside him, a younger comrade turned pale, leaning against the railing as he heaved, though nothing emerged. They had won, yet no one celebrated. Each face bore the weight of dread mingling with brutality. They had triumphed. But they all understood that this was merely the beginning. This was only the first wave of cannon fodder sent by Bo Hao to test them. They were too few to maintain such an intense vigilance around the clock. Over time, as long as there was a moment of negligence, the consequences would be irreparable. In the Lin family ancestral home, the atmosphere was stifling. "Chaozi, you must leave tomorrow," Lin Chao declared, drawing a deep breath of smoke, the ember flickering in the darkness. "Return to the interior, to Factory 708. It is the safest place." "Dad, I won't go." Lin Chao shook his head, his gaze resolute. "You must go." Lin Chang's voice rose sharply. "Bo Hao has set his sights on us. Staying here is tantamount to courting death." "Leaving would only mean waiting for death," Lin Chao replied, locking eyes with his father. "If we depart, he will unleash his wrath upon Uncle and the villagers. Moreover, we can evade him for a moment, but not forever. We cannot hide in the interior for a lifetime." He paused, articulating each word carefully. "Dad, we cannot remain passive and suffer blows indefinitely. We must devise a way to topple him." "Topple him?" Li Shangji chuckled bitterly. "Chaozi, Bo Hao's backing is Chief Inspector Lu Lei. What do we have to confront him?" Lin Chao observed the puzzled expressions around him. "I had a close professor during my university days, who has connections with the Hong Kong government. This might be our only leverage." Lin Chao spoke earnestly. "I can attempt to explore this channel to discover a way out. If it fails, we can retreat to the interior. If I fail, I will immediately head inland, without delay." Lin Chao scrutinized his son intensely, detecting in his calm eyes a strategic resolve far beyond his years. He eventually nodded, extinguishing the cigarette, but, "Very well, I will accompany you in this gamble." Chapter 26. Annihilation. The following day, in Kowloon City, Bo Hao listened to reports from his subordinates, his brow slightly furrowing. The individuals sent to Lejiakin to set fires had not returned all night. 3 boats, a dozen men, had vanished without a trace. "Brother Hao, could something have happened?" One confidant speculated cautiously. "Long Xiaoyan's mad dog is capable of anything now. Perhaps their men lay in ambush." Bo Hao pondered in silence. This conjecture was plausible. A mere shipyard could not possess the capability to make a dozen men disappear silently. It could only be the main force of Long Xiaotian. His fingers lightly drummed on the armrest of the sofa. If that is the case, it is pointless to continue entangling with that small shipyard. Instead of squandering time and energy on a trivial maintenance point, it is wiser to strike at its roots. Forget about that shipyard, he declared, a glint of ruthlessness flashing in his eyes. Send a few people to Yaomati. Bo Hao's voice was low. Confirm whether Long Xiaotian is at the hall today. Strike directly tonight. No more waiting. He intended to use the most violent means to eliminate this troublesome mad dog once and for all. Meanwhile, in Yaomati, the stronghold of the Guangdong Sea Gang, Long Xiaotian was gathered with several core confidants around a table discussing their escape plan. He knew he could not outmatch Bo Hao. Continuing to fight would lead only to a dead end. In gang wars, surrender was never an option. If he surrendered, he would only meet a more brutal end. Is all the money prepared? Long Xiaotian's voice was hoarse, his eyes sunken. Brother Long, most of the assets have been liquidated. With cash and gold bars stored in the safe house's basement, one confidant replied. However, the Chaozhou gang has been watching too closely, and we have yet to find an opportunity to send it out. Tomorrow, Long Xiaotian slammed the table. No matter the means, we must get the goods out by tomorrow. I have already made arrangements in Siam. As long as we get there, we have a chance for a comeback. He was utterly desperate, wishing only to escape with the wealth he had accumulated over the years. Just then, a piercing scream echoed from outside. Long Xiaotian froze, springing upright from his chair. Who? Before he could finish his question, the heavy wooden door was violently kicked open. Bang! As wood splintered, several men clad in black surged in like silent phantoms. They wielded silenced handguns, their eyes devoid of emotion, as if gazing at a herd of already slaughtered livestock. The few confidants inside instinctively reached for their guns, but they were too slow. Uft, uft, uft. The muffled sounds of gunfire melded into a single note. Those who had just dreamed of a resurgence now lay lifeless, blood blooming from their foreheads, their faces frozen in shock and indignation. The entire process took no more than 3 seconds. It was suffocatingly swift. Long Xiaotian felt as if his blood had been drained, his limbs turning cold. He gazed at his fallen brothers in pools of blood, then at the encroaching assassins, and his legs buckled, collapsing to the ground. The once arrogant and domineering man felt utterly diminished in the face of death. Please, don't kill me. His voice quivered with sheer terror, tinged with a sob. I will give you all the money. All of it. Please spare my life. The leading assassin approached him, towering above, regarding him as one would an insignificant insect. Without uttering a word, he slowly raised his hand. Long Xiaotian stared at the dark muzzle of the gun, his pupils constricting to pinpricks, all pleas for mercy caught in his throat. He understood that they were not here for money. They had come to collect a life. Uft! A faint sound echoed. Long Xiaotian's body jerked backward, crashing heavily to the ground, a charred blood hole appearing in his forehead. He died with his eyes wide open. The man at the forefront cast a glance at the corpses strewn across the ground, nudging Long Xiaotian's lifeless body with his foot to confirm his demise. Subsequently, this group of individuals retreated as silently as they had arrived, vanishing into the thick darkness of the night. The room was left with an overwhelming stench of blood. The following morning, in Yaomati, the headquarters of the Yuehai gang, a long yellow police tape had been strung up at the foot of an old Tong Lao. A multitude of police vehicles surrounded the street, creating an impenetrable barrier. Uniformed officers moved in and out of the building, their expressions grave. The remaining lackeys of the Yuehai gang, like headless flies, gathered outside the police tape, whispering among themselves. Terror and confusion were etched upon every face. Long Ge was dead. Several core leaders of the gang had also met their end in the safe house. This news detonated within the Yuehai gang like a bomb. The sky had fallen. With their backbone gone, no one knew what to do. Should they wait to be hunted down by the Chaozhou gang, or hastily pack their belongings and flee? Amidst the crowd, Zhao Xiang's face was ashen. Long Ge was truly finished. They were finished. Fear coiled around his heart like a vine. At that moment, a similarly young lackey beside him trembled as he spoke. Xianggu, what should we do? This question drew the gaze of everyone around towards Zhao Xiang. This group of lackeys primarily managed the waterways, and Zhao Xiang, being the captain of a large vessel, held the highest status among them. What to do? Zhao Xiang's mind was a chaotic whirlwind. Surrender? Would Bo Hao spare them? Escape? Where could they, mere pawns, go? A thought struck him like lightning. He recalled that day in Lujia village and Lin Jiqiang's icy gaze. He also remembered the rumors circulating after the failed attack on the Chaozhou. Lin Jiqiang. If anyone in Xianjiang still dared to take them in, it would likely be Lin Jiqiang. We shall seek out my master. Zhao Xiang grasped this last thread of hope. Raising his head suddenly, a glimmer of survival igniting in his eyes. Long Gu was dead. The Yuehai gang was dismantled. Staying here was merely awaiting death. The Chaozhou gang would not spare them. His voice was low but clear, reaching every ear around him. Only my master can protect us now. Those who wish to live. Follow me. With that, he turned without hesitation and began to walk away. Behind him, dozens of similarly cornered youth, after a brief hesitation, silently followed suit. In Repulse Bay, within a hillside villa overlooking the sea, Inspector Liu Lei of the General Administration was leisurely trimming a prize clivia while donned in a loose silk robe. Opposite him sat Wu Tiahao on the sofa, holding a cup of fine Longjing tea, a respectful smile adorning his face. How? The commotion in Yao Ma Ti last night was quite significant. Liu Lei did not turn around, his voice flat, as if discussing an inconsequential matter. The files at the police station are piling up like mountains. The journalist calls are nearly overwhelming the lines at the headquarters. This puts me in a difficult position. Bo Hao quickly set down his teacup and rose. Uncle, it was my subordinate's negligence that caused you trouble. Trouble is secondary, Liu Lei replied, setting down his scissors and turning to fix his penetrating gaze upon Bo Hao. There are recent stirrings from above, and the British side may be planning significant actions. The last thing we need now is to draw attention. He moved to the liquor cabinet and poured himself a glass of brandy. I have already retired. I only wish to spend next year peacefully in Canada with my grandson. Do you understand my meaning? Bo Hao's heart sank. He understood the warning behind Liu Lei's words. Rest assured, Uncle, I comprehend. He bowed deeply. From today, I will ensure my subordinates exercise restraint. We will consolidate our venues and channels to conduct business steadily. Liu Lei nodded in satisfaction. That's the way. Harmony breeds wealth. Upon exiting the villa, Bo Hao entered his Rolls Royce, his respectful demeanor instantly replaced by a cold shadow. He knew Liu Lei's ship was no longer trustworthy. He must seize complete control of the drug trade in Xianjiang before Liu Lei departed, establishing his own kingdom. Back at his lair, he picked up the phone. Notify everyone to keep a low profile, no more fatalities. We will fully occupy the territory and waterways left by the Yuehai gang. Brother Hao, what about the shipyard in Lujia village? The voice on the other end inquired cautiously. A dilapidated shipyard is not a priority. Bo Hao interrupted impatiently. He had more pressing matters to attend to. Chapter 27. The fisheries company at the Lujia village dock. Lin Jiqiang observed the despondent remnants of the Yuehai gang, their spirits as low as lost dogs, and remained silent for a long moment. Zhao Xiang, accompanied by over 30 individuals, nearly knelt before him in supplication. Upon hearing that Long Xiaodian had been silenced by Bo Hao, even someone as seasoned as Lin Jiqiang felt a chill run down his spine. It was all too swift. Just a few days prior, the head of the Yuehai gang had convened a meeting, and now he was but a corpse. Bo Hao's ruthlessness surpassed his expectations, leaving an unprecedented sense of crisis looming over everyone. The atmosphere in the Lin family's old residence was palpably tense. Changge, accept them. Chen Bao spoke in a low voice. We are currently short-handed. Every additional person adds to our strength. Ultimately, Lin Jiqiang nodded. He realized that from this moment onward, there was no longer any room for reconciliation with Bo Hao. As discussions ensued regarding how to accommodate these individuals, Lin Chao approached his father alone. Dad, we cannot continue like this. We must accelerate our actions. Lin Jiqiang regarded his son, aware that he must have conceived some plan. I wish to find someone. Lin Chao's gaze swept over everyone present, finally landing on his father's face. A confidant of Bo Hao, named Chen Qi. Chen Qi? Li Shangja blinked in surprise. What do we need him for? He is one of Bo Hao's most formidable enforcers, notorious for his ruthlessness. Confusion spread across the faces of everyone in the room. At such a critical juncture, seeking out Bo Hao's confidant, wasn't that akin to walking into a trap? Only Lin Chao understood. This Chen Qi would be the key figure who, months later, would hand over all of Bo Hao's criminal evidence to the Independent Commission Against Corruption, leading to the collapse of Bo Hao's empire. Lin Chao's expression remained unperturbed. Meeting the gazes of everyone, his voice was calm and steady. The professor I know has connections within the government. He paused, allowing time for the information to sink in. He is not someone like Liu Lei. He is genuinely intent on taking action. They had been observing Bo Hao for quite some time, but Lulei's protective umbrella was too vast for them to breach. They needed a breakthrough, someone who could tear open this breach from within. Lin Chao's gaze scanned the crowd, finally resting on his father, Lin Jiqiang's face. They believed Qin Shi was that breakthrough. His words, half-truths yet resonant, pierced the hearts of the listeners like a stimulant. The authority of the forces within the government? This seemingly abstract term carried an irresistible weight of authority. Lin Jiqiang fixed his gaze intently on his son, attempting to discern even the faintest flicker of doubt in Lin Chao's eyes. Yet he failed. There was only an unsettling calm that belied his age. He did not know who the professor his son spoke of was, nor did he know where those intent on taking action could be found. But he understood that his son would not gamble with the lives of everyone. I do not care who your professor is. Lin Jiqiang extinguished the cigarette in his hand. His voice low. I only need to know if this matter is reliable. It is reliable, Lin Chao replied succinctly. Lin Jiqiang ceased to inquire further. He rose and addressed Chen Bao, saying, Bao, this matter is entrusted to you. Utilize all our connections to unearth Qin Shi. I wish to ascertain his recent whereabouts. Understood, Brother Chong. Chen Bao nodded in acknowledgement. Once this task was assigned, the atmosphere in the room eased slightly. However, another, more intricate issue loomed before them. The several remnants of the Yuehai gang who had recently defected. Father, how should we deal with these individuals? Lin Chao interjected. While we have accepted them, how do we sustain their livelihoods? We cannot truly raise the banner of the Yuehai gang, for that would directly signal to Bo Hao that we are his next target. Lin Jiqiang articulated the collective apprehensions. Raising the Yuehai gang's flag would mean inheriting the vendetta between Long Xiaodian and Bo Hao, a burden they could not bear. We will not align ourselves with any faction. Lin Chao's voice was clear and resolute. We are not a gang. He glanced at the group of former Yuehai gang members, led by Zhao Xiang, waiting outside. From today onward, they are no longer members of the Yuehai gang. They are employees of Linji Fisheries. We are not a criminal organization. We are a legitimate fishing enterprise. It is only natural for the company to support its employees, and it is incumbent upon the employees to protect the company's assets. His words stunned everyone present. Even Lin Jiqiang appeared momentarily speechless. This maneuver was astute indeed. It severed all ties with the Yuehai gang and transformed the group of outlaws into legitimate employees of a company. Henceforth, even if the authorities came knocking, they would possess the identity of law-abiding citizens. Excellent. Let it be so, Lin Jiqiang declared, his spirits lifted as he slapped his thigh. He approached the visibly anxious Zhao Xiang and said, Xiang, you followed me for 6 years, and our parting was amicable. Today, as you return, I will accept you. But this is the final opportunity. Furthermore, you have heard, there is no longer a Yuehai gang. The brothers accompanying you will henceforth be known as our Linji Fisheries personnel. Once you join us, I care not for your past conduct. Here, you must abide by my rules. Return and summon any remaining brothers you can find. Additionally, retrieve any remaining vessels of the Yuehai gang, those that can be sailed. Bring them here. We shall not allow Bo Hao's rabble to profit. Zhao Xiang felt as though a great weight had been lifted. He was so overwhelmed with emotion that he nearly knelt. He nodded repeatedly and, along with his companions, dashed away without a backward glance. They were to gather any remaining allies and retrieve whatever assets of the Yuehai gang they could. With a new stronghold established, everyone felt a renewed sense of purpose. Once this matter was settled, Lin Jiqiang immediately dispatched Chen Bao to communicate with several other leaders in the circle who had yet to side with Bo Hao. The message was simple. The Yuehai gang no longer existed, and he, Lin Jiqiang, had no intention of taking over the Yuehai gang's territory or grievances. However, the territory of Lijiakin was his foundation. Anyone who dared to encroach would face dire consequences. In the underworld of the entire Xiangjiang, a revelry of impending doom began to unfold. After eliminating Long Xiaotian, Bo Hao grew increasingly reckless. The territories, dance halls, gambling dens, and docks left behind by the Yuehai gang were swiftly adorned with the banners of the Chaozhou gang overnight. Former strongholds of the Yuehai gang had transformed into outposts for Chaozhou gang's operations. The established local factions, having witnessed the bloody conflict within the circle, chose to retreat. No one dared provoke Bo Hao at this juncture. All of Kowloon seemed shrouded in his oppressive shadow. Meanwhile, the shipyard in Lijiakin was bustling with activity. The harsh sounds of metal cutting and the roar of machinery drowned out all external turmoil. Lin Chao, donning protective goggles, personally adjusted a brand new horizontal milling machine. This machine was crafted by him using data from the Future Research Institute, combined with available materials. Its processing precision would put the British engineers in the port government to shame. With it, the shipyard's autonomy in production would ascend to new heights. He aimed to transform this place into a true industrial fortress. Just as he focused intently on adjusting a crucial gear gap, the iron door of the factory was abruptly thrust open. Chun Bao burst in, breathless and brimming with barely contained excitement. "Chaozi!" Lin Chao switched off the machine and removed his goggles to look at him. Chun Bao swallowed hard, striving to steady his breath. "We have located Qin Shi." Chapter 28. Two paths in Kowloon, at the KT restaurant on the second floor, in a booth by the window. The cacophony of the street market became muffled by the glass barrier. Lin Chao held a cigarette between his fingers, unlit, merely twirling it absent-mindedly. His gaze drifted across the street to the entrance of a mahjong parlor. Opposite him, Chun Bao sat with a solemn demeanor, his hands resting on his knees. The outline of a bulging waist concealed beneath his suit. Behind them stood three young men, silent as stone statues. Time ticked away slowly. At last, a black Mercedes-Benz came to a halt in front of the mahjong parlor. The door swung open, revealing a man clad in a floral shirt, with a robust build. A toothpick dangling from his mouth, he walked with an air of arrogance. None other than Qin Shi, one of Bo Hao's most trusted enforcers. Two equally formidable henchmen followed closely behind him. "He has arrived." Chun Bao's voice was barely above a whisper. Lin Chao's expression remained unchanged. He retrieved a folded note from his pocket and handed it to Chun Bao. "Proceed." Chun Bao accepted the note and descended the stairs. Moments later, he returned to the booth, nodding slightly to Lin Chao. Downstairs, a ragged little beggar, appearing no older than 7 or 8, clutched a crisp $1 bill, beaming with joy. He dashed across the street, directly to Qin Shi, and handed over the neatly folded note. Qin Shi frowned, initially disinclined to acknowledge it. But the beggar's unwavering gaze compelled him to accept it impatiently. He casually unfolded the note, scanning its contents. In the next instant, the arrogance and disdain on Qin Shi's face froze. A chill surged from his feet to the crown of his head. He abruptly looked up, his eyes sharp as knives, sweeping the surroundings in search of the note's sender. The words on the note were few, yet sent shivers down his spine. "If you do not wish for Bo Hao to discover your embezzlement of 3 million in drug money, come find me." "Who gave you this?" Qin Shi seized the little beggar's arm, his voice distorted with pressure. The boy, startled, trembled and pointed across the street at the KT restaurant. "An uncle said the person who gave the note is waiting for you on the second floor of the KT restaurant." With that, he wriggled free from Qin Shi's grip and vanished without a trace. Qin Shi stood there, his expression fluctuating between stormy and uncertain. 3 million. Only he and one other accountant, whom he had already disposed of at sea, knew of this amount. It represented the funds from the last batch of powder sales he had secretly intercepted from Bo Hao, due for settlement by the end of the month. However, he had already invested this money in gold trading, and now it was ensnared. He was left with less than 1 million. This was his greatest secret. Recently, he had been unable to sleep soundly, often waking in a panic from dreams. Now, this secret had been laid bare. "Brother Chi, what's wrong?" One of his henchmen noticed something amiss and leaned in to inquire. Qin Shi remained silent, merely crumpling the note tightly in his fist. He glanced at the second floor of the tea restaurant across the street, where the shutters obscured the view within. The unknown was the most terrifying. "You all wait here for me." Qin Shi took a deep breath, making his decision. "Brother Chi, it could be dangerous," his men quickly cautioned. "Who dares to touch me in all of Mongkok?" Qin Shi's tone regained a hint of ferocity, though the fear in his eyes was unmistakable. He knew he must go up. Since the other party was able to deliver the note directly into his hands, it indicated that they had already tracked his movements. There was no escaping this. Qin Shi adjusted his collar and crossed the road alone, stepping into the Golden Sparrow Tea Restaurant. Ascending to the second floor, he surveyed the surroundings. The tea restaurant was sparsely populated, with a few patrons scattered about, all appearing to be ordinary locals. He was uncertain who had summoned him. At that moment, a man in a suit approached him. "Mr. Qin Shi?" The expression on Chun Bao's face was inscrutable. Qin Shi's muscles tensed instinctively. "That's me. Our boss requests your presence." Chun Bao gestured to a private room in the corner. Qin Shi followed him into the room. As the door closed, it sealed off all external sounds. Inside the room sat a young man, seemingly in his early 20s, with a refined demeanor resembling that of a student. Chen Qi's pupils constricted slightly. He never anticipated that he would be meeting with someone so young. He pulled out a chair to sit down, his body taut as a drawn bow. "Are you the one who sought me out?" Lin Chao remained silent, simply observing him with a gaze as tranquil as still water. Being scrutinized by such a youth stirred an inexplicable sense of irritation and unease within Chen Qi. He resolved to be straightforward. "How did you know about the money?" He fixed his gaze on Lin Chao's eyes. "Who exactly are you?" Only then did Lin Chao slowly begin to speak. "Who I am is of little consequence." He pushed the teacup in front of him forward. "What matters, Mr. Chen Qi, is that you are about to face imminent disaster. Are you threatening me?" Chen Qi scoffed. Although his back had begun to perspire, "This is not a threat, it is merely a statement of fact." Lin Chao reclined against the back of his chair. "Do you believe your actions are foolproof? Do you think Bo Hao is a fool? He simply hasn't traced it back to you yet." Lin Chao picked up a match from the table and struck it, igniting the cigarette he had yet to smoke. The rising smoke obscured his features. "However, I can ensure that Mr. Bo Hao will soon be made aware of this matter." Chen Qi's heart sank heavily. He recognized the truth in Lin Chao's words. Once Bo Hao discovered that he had embezzled 3 million, his only fate would be to be thrown into Victoria Harbor as fish bait. "What exactly do you want?" Chen Qi's voice had grown hoarse. He understood he had completely fallen under the other party's control. "I desire nothing." Lin Chao flicked the ash from his cigarette. "I have merely come to offer you a path to survival." He locked eyes with Chen Qi, stating coldly, "Bo Hao and Inspector General LV Lei have already been placed on the foreigner S list. The Hong Kong government is about to establish a new department called the Independent Commission Against Corruption. This department operates beyond anyone's control, reporting only to the governor. Their primary target will be LV Lei and the protection he provides to Bo Hao. They are doomed." Lin Chao's tone was resolute. Chen Qi was utterly stunned. The Independent Commission Against Corruption? He had never even heard of such a term. Yet the notion of LV Lei and Bo Hao facing downfall struck him like a thunderclap in his mind. If someone else had uttered those words, he would have dismissed them as a joke. However, spoken by this enigmatic young man, it compelled him to believe, for the other party held his greatest secret. "Are you associated with the foreigners?" Chen Qi's voice trembled uncontrollably. He finally comprehended that he was not contending with mere underworld forces, but with the Hong Kong government. With those lofty Britons. No wonder they could uncover his secrets. No wonder this young man dared to be so audacious. "You may think of it that way." Lin Chao neither confirmed nor denied it. This ambiguous stance, to Chen Qi, felt like an acknowledgement. "Now, you have two choices." Lin Chao raised a finger. "First, you continue to serve Bo Hao. If you are not executed for embezzling funds, you will be implicated when he falls, facing retribution as his most trusted subordinate. If fortune favors you, you may end your days in Stanley Prison. If not, you might face execution." He paused, then raised a second finger. "Second, you cooperate with us. Provide us with all the evidence you possess regarding Bo Hao's drug trafficking and bribery, especially the accounts. We will guarantee your safety and, after seizing Bo Hao's assets, ensure you receive a share substantial enough to comfortably live out the remainder of your life anywhere." Lin Chao leaned slightly forward, fixing his gaze on Chen Qi's eyes. "Of course, you may choose to refuse. However, in that case, within an hour, evidence of your embezzlement will appear on Bo Hao's desk. The path you take is yours to decide." Chapter 29. The other half of success. The private room fell into a profound silence. Cold sweat beaded on Chen Qi's forehead. The back of his floral shirt soaked through. His mind raced. On one side lay a certain death trap. On the other, an uncertain risk accompanied by immense temptation. He scarcely had time to hesitate. Rising to his current position required not just ruthlessness, but also an acute awareness of timing. No matter how formidable Bo Hao was, could he surpass the foreigners? No matter how powerful LV Lei was, could he eclipse the governor? The answer was glaringly obvious. He abruptly lifted his head, a flicker of resolution flashing in his eyes. "How can I trust you?" "You lack the standing to speak of trust," Lin Chao replied coolly. "You must gamble. Gamble that what we say is true. If you lose, your fate will mirror your current predicament. If you win, you will gain a new way of life." This statement shattered Chen Qi's last psychological barrier. He slumped back in his chair, as if all his strength had been drained away. "Fine." He forced the word through clenched teeth. "I will cooperate with you." A smile spread across Lin Chao's face. He understood that Bo Hao's demise had begun its countdown. Excellent. You have made a wise choice. Lin Chao extinguished his cigarette. I require all of Bo Hao's criminal evidence, particularly those ledgers documenting his monetary transactions with corrupt officers. The ledgers are in his villa's safe. They are difficult to obtain, Qin Shi expressed with evident concern. That is your problem. Lin Chao's tone turned icy. I will give you 2 days. 5 days from now, at the same time, in the same place. I expect you to bring what I desire. Upon leaving the Golden Sparrow Tea restaurant, the din and heat of the outside world enveloped them. Chen Bao followed Lin Chao, a trace of unspent exhilaration lingering on his face. It's done. The most capable Red Stick under Bo Hao has been swayed by Chao Zi's mere words. If word of this spread, it would send shockwaves through the entire underworld. Yet Lin Chao, walking ahead, displayed not a hint of relaxation. His brows remained furrowed, as if burdened by an invisible weight. The flicker of excitement in Chun Bao's heart began to fade. Chao Zi, hasn't it been resolved? Lin Chao halted. Glancing back at him, Wei only addressed half the matter. This half was acquired through empty promises. Qin Shi capitulated because he believed in the mysterious power of the Hong Kong government that stands behind me. But this power presently exists only in my mind. It is an illusion constructed from future information, seemingly grand, yet fragile enough to shatter at a touch. Before Qin Shi hands over the evidence, I must transform this mirage into tangible reality. I need a genuine ally, one from within the Hong Kong government, sufficiently influential, and equally eager to topple LV Lei and Bo Hao. The Independent Commission Against Corruption, an institution poised to alter the course of Hong Kong's history, had yet to be officially established. Most people were even unaware of its existence. But Lin Chao was aware. Not only did he know, but he also understood the future core personnel of this organization, the inaugural commissioner, Jida, and the deputy commissioner, Pang Dinghua. These 2 names flashed through his mind before being dismissed. They were both foreigners. As a solitary student from the University of Hong Kong, lacking any connections or influential background, the prospect of directly engaging with such prominent figures seemed akin to a fool's dream. Even if he were to encounter them, what reason would they have to trust an obscure Chinese individual? The establishment of trust necessitates time and a shared cultural foundation, qualities he lacked. His only avenue for breakthrough lay with a fellow Chinese individual, one who could potentially ascend to the highest echelons of the future Independent Commission Against Corruption. The name Su Jiajie surfaced from the recesses of his memory. He would serve as the deputy director of the operations division in the future commission, holding the highest position among the Chinese. Yet at this moment, he was merely a sergeant in the anti-corruption unit. Although still an official, he was not entirely beyond reach. Uncle Bao, take the team back and keep an eye on the shipyard and the newcomers, Lin Chao calmly instructed. I have a more pressing matter to attend to. Chen Bao observed the depth of Lin Chao's eyes and refrained from inquiring further. He nodded, be careful. In Wan Chai, Lin Chao stood across the street, gazing at the colonial-style police headquarters. He hesitated before entering, retrieving several $10 bills from his pocket and approaching the dozing security guard at the entrance. Excuse me, may I ask for directions? The guard opened his sleepy eyes and regarded him with impatience. Lin Chao discreetly slid the money towards him. I'm looking for Sergeant Su Jiajie from the anti-corruption unit regarding a personal matter. His voice was low, seeking to avoid drawing attention. The guard pinched the bills, and his irritation transformed into an understanding smile. Young man, you're quite resourceful. He gestured inside. Susur hasn't tea left yet. Wait here, and I'll point him out when he comes out. Lin Chao thanked him and took a seat on a nearby bench, exuding patience. Time trickled by. As the sun dipped, officers began to exit the building in small groups. At last, the guard signaled him with a glance. Following the direction of his gaze, Lin Chao spotted a man in plain clothes, of average build and unremarkable appearance, stepping out. He appeared to be in his 30s, with sharp eyes that habitually scanned his surroundings. This was the one, Su Jiajie. Lin Chao took a deep breath and approached him directly. Su Jiajie noticed the young man approaching almost immediately. Though his stride did not falter, his muscles tensed instinctively, his gaze filled with wariness. Who was this? A lackey sent from a case, or perhaps a journalist seeking information. Thoughts raced through his mind. Lin Chao stood firm before him, eschewing pleasantries. Sergeant Su, would you be interested in evidence regarding Lu Lei's corruption? Boom. The word struck Su Jiajie's mind like thunder, causing his pupils to constrict and his steps to halt. He stared intently at the unfamiliar young man, his expression stiff with shock. Lu Lei? This name was taboo within the police force. Everyone knew of his corruption, yet none dared to investigate or confront him. Now, a mere youth claimed to possess evidence against Lu Lei? This is not a place for discussion. Su Jiajia, being an experienced member of the anti-corruption unit, quickly regained his composure. He glanced around before lowering his voice. Follow me. Half an hour later, in a private room of an upscale Western restaurant, soft lighting and soothing music enveloped them, isolating them from the outside clamor. Su Jiajia lifted his coffee cup, but did not sip from it. His gaze unwaveringly fixed on Lin Chao. Now we can speak freely, he said, setting down his cup. Who are you and why do you seek me? My name is Lin Chao, a student from the University of Hong Kong, he replied, initially presenting himself in a manner befitting an official audience. My family operates a small shipyard in Lujia village and engages in some fishing business. Recently, the Tu Chao Gang's Bohao has taken an interest in our shipyard and has sent people to cause trouble repeatedly. I have investigated and discovered that Bohao's backing comes from Chief Lu Lei. To put an end to his interference, we must first dismantle his protection. Su Jiajia listened intently, his expression inscrutable, yet internally, he held skepticism. A university student? He had encountered numerous students, yet none possessed the aura and gaze of this young man, an air of tranquility that suggested experience of tumultuous storms and even life and death scenarios. This young man likely hailed from a gang, and the alleged troubles at the shipyard were merely a pretext for gang conflict. However, Su Jiajia did not care about Lin Chao's true identity. What mattered was the evidence. He had already been summoned multiple times by his foreign superior, who informed him of impending changes. The governor had resolved to establish an independent anti-corruption department outside the police force. He had been earmarked for a senior position in this new department, with orders potentially arriving in the latter half of the year. What he needed most now was a monumental achievement, one that would solidify his standing in the new unit and silence all critics. Bringing down Lu Lei would serve as the perfect testament to his capabilities. I shall tentatively accept your story, Su Jiajia remarked, his fingers lightly tapping the table. What I care about now is whether your evidence holds sufficient weight to send him to Stanley Prison. Would account books suffice? Lin Chao countered. Su Jiajia's breath caught. Which account books? The account books of Bohao, documenting his bribes to Lu Lei and other corrupt officers. Su Jiajia's eyes sparkled with renewed interest. If such documents existed, not only Lu Lei but half the Kowloon police station would be implicated. Yet, mere documents were insufficient. He suppressed his excitement and maintained a calm demeanor. Witnesses will also be necessary. You need not worry about that, Lin Chao replied with a smile. I can not only procure the account books, but also ensure that Chen Qi, Bohao's most trusted subordinate, stands ready to testify against them. Su Jiajia could no longer remain seated. He shot up, his eyes ablaze with fervor. Material evidence coupled with witness testimony. This constituted an ironclad case. He envisioned Lu Lei and Bohao, handcuffed and escorted by him to the prison van. He fixed Lin Chao with a penetrating gaze, posing the pivotal question. Why go to such lengths? What do you seek? He was incredulous that someone would undertake such efforts without compensation. Was it money, status, or something else? Lin Chao met his gaze steadily, shaking his head. Leaning back in his chair, he spoke with nonchalance. I desire nothing but the opportunity to befriend you, Officer Su. Additionally, I hope for a swift action against Bohao. Su Jiajia reclined in his chair, exhaling a long breath. His demeanor shifted. The scrutiny in his eyes transformed into an equal gaze. Su Jiajia was no fool. He recognized that Lin Chao was extending an olive branch while also showcasing his strength. A person capable of swaying Bohao's confidant and producing damning evidence was certainly no ordinary university student. The power he represented likely surpassed Su Jiajia's imagination. Very well. Su Jiajia retrieved a notebook from his pocket, tore out a page, and scribbled a series of numbers. This is my office number. Contact me anytime after you secure the account books. He slid the note across the table. Mr. Lin, may our collaboration be fruitful. Lin Chao accepted the note and stood. Indeed, may our collaboration be fruitful. After bidding farewell to Su Jiajia, Lin Chao lingered alone in the private room for a while, feeling the tension that had been taut within him begin to ease slightly. It was done. The most crucial step had been taken. He utilized a future information gap to successfully transform himself from a passive pawn into a chess player capable of manipulating the board. When Lin Chao returned to Lijiakan, dusk had already descended. The shipyard was ablaze with light, as Chun Bao was familiarizing dozens of newcomers with their surroundings and assigning tasks. In the Lin family ancestral home, Lin Jiqiang sat alone in the courtyard, chain-smoking, with a multitude of cigarette butts strewn at his feet. Upon hearing footsteps, he abruptly lifted his head. It settled. Lin Chao announced as he entered the courtyard, eager to share the outcome. Lin Jiqiang paused, his fingers clutching the cigarette momentarily, and the tension in his face softened. That's good. The father and son exchanged a wordless glance, both acutely aware that from the moment they sought out Qin, their war against Bo Hao had entered a countdown. Their current task was to navigate this precarious period carefully, enduring until the day Bo Hao fell from power. Dad, we have a major problem. Lin Chao broke the silence, pulling up a chair. Money. Lin Jiqiang had already contemplated this issue, his brow furrowing anew. Zhao Xiang had returned with a contingent of over 50 remnants from the Yuehai gang. These individuals, along with the existing brothers at the shipyard, constituted a significant daily expense just for meals. Previously, their income from smuggling and human trafficking had been relatively substantial. However, the entire underbelly of Xiangjiang had been muddied by Bo Hao, halting all business operations. It was unrealistic to expect this group of ruffians, more adept at wielding knives than casting nets, to venture out to fish for sustenance. Should we make another trip to Macau? Lin Jiqiang tentatively suggested. Lin Chao shook his head. No, the atmosphere is too tense. Bo Hao's spies are undoubtedly spread throughout Hong Kong and Macau. Besides, the sum of money we require is too great. Making a singular, conspicuous move with a large quantity of diamonds would be too risky. Lin Jiqiang understood this reasoning. Falling into contemplation, suddenly, Lin Chao's eyes brightened. A bold idea took shape rapidly in his mind. Dad, the underworld is in chaos. All smugglers are steering clear, correct? Lin Jiqiang nodded, puzzled by his son's sudden inquiry. Then they must be sitting on a large stockpile of goods they cannot move. Lin Chao's excitement grew. These goods are merely occupying space and will become burdensome for them over time. Lin Jiqiang's eyes also lit up as he grasped his son's implication. You mean? Exactly, Lin Chao interjected. We won't sell diamonds for cash. Instead, we will exchange diamonds for their goods. Who else in Xiangjiang, apart from us, possesses the audacity and capability to absorb such a large volume of stock? With diamonds as hard currency, we can acquire their inventory at the lowest possible price. Lin Jiqiang's breath quickened at this revelation. This is truly a masterstroke. But once we acquire the goods, how do we move them? Bo Hao's men are currently watching the loose cargo.